And subscribers and guests to my stream here. It's Thursday on Lichess and Twitch. We're going to be doing the subscriber stream, so I do game analysis for games submitted by my subscribers to the stream. Okay, guys, you ready? We've got a lot of subscription games today. Here's the list: Astrobate, Yobatis, Spectacular Camel, aka Spectacular Camel, JCS, Soltigo, Move 11, Nils, and Morwa, if he's a subscriber. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Maybe we have time for one or two more. Thank you, Ponda, for the list of submitted games thus far. That gives us something like 7, plus I'm sure a couple more on the way. That's the Ponda. Well, we have quite a few. I think Nefedov usually drops one in, aka Spectacular Camel. But if you want to do another game or two, we probably have enough time to do like 10. So, Saul, if you are interested in submitting a game, there are still a couple openings probably. I estimate we usually have 10 games or so. So hopefully you have enough time. Paschall 99. Just submit the message to my Lichess account. Sparkle Horse, as you see here. Sparkle Horse on Lichess is the easiest way to do it. Of course, I could copy and paste it if you send it on Twitch, but it's easier. Just send me a message on lichess.org. So I'm gonna get started. Nothing else to report. I'll be moving to Budapest for a month and a half next week, so we're going to be streaming tomorrow, and that'll be my last stream, I guess. Let's see, Friday. So that'll be my last stream for the best part of a week. We'll be streaming this Friday, tomorrow, aka tomorrow, and then following Friday will be like the next stream. So I have Friday until Friday. Friday until Friday will be off for the stream. Okay, what's up, guys? I've got Astrobate first, and I wasn't sure, Astrobate, if you want to clarify which game you want to go over. I guess the one that we were talking about earlier. Astrobate, you wanna go over which game? It's bad news. It's a bad news? Why is that? I'll be in your time zone, S4. So it'll be easier for you to watch the stream, probably. Alright, let me see if we can find Astrobate in the online friends list. Maybe I can remember, I can find his game. We were looking at a game today. Astrobate study. Astrobate check Benoni system. His last one we were looking at. I thought we could go over that. This was a really cool game that Astrobate played with black. Check Benoni, exactly. So we actually looked at this a little bit with S4 as well, and I don't know, maybe those guys analyzed the game in more depth, but I've just seen it once through. And Astrobate is black here, and he's playing this check Benoni. So Saul and I really tried to tell him, that essentially you're going against the grain. The check Benoni is a difficult opening to play. But okay, I think on the other hand, yeah, I agree. S4, objectively that's true. But probably, although his results might be not that good to begin with, playing this opening is going to make you tougher. I think that playing a tough opening, a difficult opening, is going to make you tougher in the long run. And it's certainly going to improve Astrobate's understanding of closed positions in particular. This opening, this E5, the so-called check Benoni, closing the center, is kind of against principle in a sense, because you're allowing white to establish a strong center, and you're not undermining it with E6 or B5, which would be the normal strategy. You're just letting white have that very strong center, and then kind of meeting it, but white maintains a space advantage. Not an easy opening to play, but probably rewarding that it will make you a good defender in the long run. So let's take a look here. Knight C3, D6, E4, Bishop B7. we've seen a lot of games where opponents will play like bishop g5. It's an absolutely bad move. Just the last thing you want to do in this kind of position. Pichu, what's up? JCS, welcome everybody. Niels, yeah, I saw that. I got you on the list. Paschall 99, you can submit a game if you want to. Spectacular Camel, already did. We got him on the list. Terry Lilas. If we have time, we'll go to that one last, because I don't think he's not really a subscriber to the channel, but he is a friend of the stream. So Marwa would be, at the end of the line there. Every form of Benoni is bad. Well, no, I don't agree with that. I mean, it's not that simple. I think that the Benoni, the modern Benoni, is totally, it's hard to play, but it's playable, and it's also like kind of logical. You're attacking the center. I don't know. We can't make generalizations like that, Nils. I don't know. A lot of good players play the Benoni. There's definitely justification to it. So yeah, Nils is near the end. We've got Astrobate, Yabatas, JCS, Soltigo, Move 11, Nils, and Morwa. All right, but try not to be so. I don't know, Nils. Try not to be so dogmatic. Saying like main openings like the modern Benoni isn't really bad. I mean, it's been played by many top players. It's a very, very difficult opening to play for both sides. But I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I think that at least with e6, you're attacking the center, which is very, very fundamental. And it's hard to handle for both sides. I mean, it's easier to handle for white than for black, but I've lost a lot of games with white too. So I can tell you, it's not that simple. But yeah, fundamentally, you can make an argument like the Benko Gambit is the best, because you're attacking the base of the pawn chain with less risk to your king. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to judge sarcasm or if people are joking. Anyway, so I don't know. But I took you literally. There's an argument, some purists might say the Benoni's not good. But I think, if you're 2700, maybe you could argue that. Even then, Gashimov played it. So anyway, you got Fischer, Tal, Gashimov. Okay, so this guy plays bishop e2. This is our game in question. I prefer the setup with bishop d3, h3, knight f3, bishop e3. This is another good setup. He plays bishop e2. And then knight f3, castles, and now bishop e3. And I've never seen anyone play like this, but it seems reasonable. There's a few random games there, like Barris, Essen, Vescovi. Just not a typical setup you see people play. You kind of wonder if this couldn't happen by a weird order of moves. Like, looking at the position now, as we see it here, it's seemingly like if you reverse engineered the move order, you could even like say, okay, maybe black played like the old Indian and then played c5 in some moment. I mean, couldn't that be possible to just play c5 in the old Indian at some random moment? But only, it would only make sense if white had like voluntarily closed the center, I guess, with the move d5. Which move order is better, knight bd7 or bishop b7? Yeah, I mean, I think typically like bishop b7. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I mean, I think I'm kind of down with the classical castles, knight e8 type of approach. But this idea of playing knight bd7, it is kind of annoying. You see this so-called lion's jaw thing they do, like they pretend it's the Philidor, and they can even play like h6 and g5, which looks really coffee house, but it's surprisingly resilient and kind of difficult to prove it like unsound. I've done some pretty extreme stuff with white, trying to play like g3, h3, just kind of wait, take the squares away from black's knight, and not even castle oftentimes. Play like g3, h3, king f1, king g2, kind of hang out and wait to see what black's going to do. Because if he plays knight on bd7, if you see something like this, then particularly this kind of setup like h3, g3, where you just don't give access to any of the squares to black's knights over there on the king side, you can even play like maybe even f3 and h4 eventually, or something like that with white. So white has a little more room to play and a little bit more options. Okay. I like bishop e7 better. Probably this isn't such a common move. You look at the database, it's much more common to see, of course, g3, but bishop d3, my preferred move, kind of a classical approach. And there are options for white to castle queenside more often with the bishop on d3. You're basically like dissuading f5, you're going to put the knight on e2, or f3. You've got two options, really. It looks ugly. Okay, the bishop's blocked by the pawns, but but actually that doesn't matter that much. And in many cases, it can even come out here to like c2 and a4 and get back into the game. You sent me the game. Okay, so that'll be the next one on the list. Pass pawn. From Pawn Pusher. Pass Pawn Pusher. Alright, I'm all business here, guys. Please support the stream. We do really appreciate if you can make bit donations or PayPal donations to support the stream. Obviously, it helps me to keep it going. And I devote a lot of time to the stream. You know, it's not a big money. Not making a ton of money, so it's helpful if people support the stream, and a lot of you have. And just subscribing is a big deal. So thanks so much to those of you that have subscribed. And that's really why I'm trying to do this Thursday stream where I'm doing game analysis. It's kind of a lot of effort, and I try to create a really serious atmosphere on Thursdays where we're really doing some constructive work on analyzing games. Okay, bishop e2, knight bd7. I've also seen, and I told Astrobate this, you've seen occasionally some people play like knight a6, knight c7 as an alternative. So castles, bishop e3, and then the question is, what should you do? He played g6 here. I thought knight e8, this is the classic idea. The problem is you don't have bishop g5, as you might in some positions. And anytime you try to play for f5, it's very risky because black plays f5, white takes on f5, and then white gets the e4 square, a la Erdos Victor. So it's not so easy. Petrosian, actually, you know, the most famous player with the white pieces, using the e4 square with the knights and stuff. Not easy for black to play f5, not easy to get counterplay. I don't know, knight h5 is an interesting idea. That kind of move, you got to calculate tactics, like knight takes e5, knight takes e5, bishop takes h5, knight takes c4. Okay, you know, this works out here. I mean, I think this is fine. But the idea of sticking the knight on h5, well, I can just play g3, like Dmitry Gurevich playing the white side of a King's Indian, and he's not committed to castling yet, even. So it's like a kind of Makaganov King's Indian. This actually looks a little dubious for black. Here, the knight on d7 kind of clogging black up. It doesn't have a good square on b6. It really looks like it's heading for f8. So I feel like Astrobate mixes systems. I mean, really here, we should stop and talk about this. It looks like, to me, you should probably like continue with knight f8. If you're going to play like this, then you play knight f8. If you want to play like a classical sort of check Benoni, then you castle and you play knight back to e8. And maybe you can do like f5 or g6, knight g7, and f5 or something like that. So I feel like it's one way or the other, like the classic, what is that song? The classic rock song, one way or the other. But anyway, either you play knight bd7 and knight f8, or you castle and you try to play knight e8. But you don't castle and play rook e8 and then knight d7 and knight f8, because now your rook is misplaced on e8, and that's what he does here. Knight bd7, castles here. g6, somewhat weakening, but okay, this is a useful maneuvering square to go like knight h5, knight g7. Here, h3 is a good move. I like the way white's played so far. He tries to exploit it, and I did talk to him about, maybe playing knight f4 as a pawn sacrifice, because this is interesting. This is speculative, and Larson did this in some King's Indian, I remember, and a lot of players have sacked pawns like this in the King's Indian. But the problem is, with the bishop on g7, you have a bit more activity. Right now, the bishop's on e7. It's kind of a long way from the long diagonal. So in this sort of instance, like bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and it's not clear that black really has enough compensation for a pawn. With Bent Larson playing one game, I remember the bishop's on g7, and he's like playing knight e5, and he's got control, and he's got f5 coming, and black just sacks the pawn for the initiative, and he has absolute compensation. Here it's a little bit like speculative, but it's still an enterprising idea. Instead, we have a6, and I caution Astrobate about this. It just doesn't seem like it's really necessary right here. It also weakens his queen side. We've talked about this before. And now he plays b6. And, if white were to play a5 as a pawn sacrifice, that even might be interesting. But anyway, white castles king side. And, I mean, when we see a4, we're a little bit happy to see that, because if he doesn't play a4, he could still castle queenside and try to play, kind of like a maniacal attacking game if he wants to. One idea I have employed myself and I have seen employed for white is basically not playing a4, castling queenside, and let's say castles queenside b5. You could try to sack a pawn. White doesn't take it. Like, you could take it if you want to, but it might be safer not to take it. In other words, just ignore b5. And if you get this kind of situation, if black at some point, I don't know, let's just say white makes a move, whatever, rook g1. If black takes here, I remember seeing one game that really made an impression on me, where basically white just continued his attack on the king side. He didn't even recapture this pawn on c4. He actually left the pawn on c4, white did, to kind of just take away, another square that black can't have access to. So there's some attacking ideas for black here along the b file, obviously. So this is a very double-edged approach for white, But taking this pawn on b5 would also be kind of double-edged, I would say. So castle queenside at your own risk in this sort of opening. It's not as dangerous as the king's Indian because the bishop's not on g7 raking that diagonal. But still, opposite side castling is always going to be dangerous. Yellow Dragoon, what's up? All right, so yeah, back to this game. So a6, a4, very classical stuff in b6, and then we see a typical theme from the Benoni, which I've used in King's Indian Benonis. Like the rook can come across, and Acerbate uses this in the game. He castles kingside. Now you've got speculative knight sacks with knight f4, or pawn sacks, excuse me, when you need it. But what should black do? He played f5 here. I mean, I guess this move is a little too risky. It's the right idea, but it really has to be carefully prepared. And I think the fact that white knight can jump into g5 might make it a bit dangerous. I mean, not right away. Let's see. f5, knight g5 right away. This is tricky because of stuff like f4, knight e6. Pawn takes e3. This is disturbing, right? How strong is that knight on e6? Queen e8. Man, who knows what's going on here? Knight c7, grabbing that rook on a8. I don't know, man. I mean, the knight is kind of trapped. This could lead to great, compensation for black. Bishop g5 or something like that. So there's a lot of cool ideas if white is too greedy. But anyways, I guess the best is something else for white. Bishop h6, apparently. Some chances for white to attack on the king side. Okay, f5. Here, we got an interesting game, though. White blunders, okay? He just loses a piece, and Acerbate doesn't do it. He doesn't concretely analyze the forced move. f4 just misses it. He gets distracted. Okay, we got to accept that he just blunders here. He plays knight g7, didn't look at f4, doesn't win a piece. He should have, okay? Double question mark. Again, he has f4. Now he sees it. Now white has to sacrifice a piece. Knight takes f4, pawn takes f4, bishop takes f4. And now it's just two pawns for a piece. So black should be winning at this point. And you've got the e5 square. This is very important. Black undeveloped for f5. Yeah, I mean, you're always kind of underdeveloped in the Czech Benoni, I guess. But closed positions, in general, the development doesn't matter quite as much. But it did look like f5 was a bit premature. So now knight f6. This is a funny move because I told him earlier that this square is the key point in this whole opening. But particularly when white plays for f4. Okay, white hasn't played f4 here. But nevertheless, remains a very important strong point, and he shouldn't lessen his control of that. If white achieves e5, he creates a protected passed pawn at d5. So here, and then g4, and now knight e8. White is down a piece here, so he's objectively in a lot of trouble. But here he plays king h2. That's kind of a weird move. Now, I don't know if this is really connected to a plan, but bishop h4 is not a bad move. And then really nice rook a7. And this shows that Acerbate has been listening. I don't want to take credit for it. He might have seen the idea in some other games, but I thought I might have mentioned this at some point. This shows great, really appreciation for how to coordinate. And it's part and parcel. I mean, I did this many times in the King's Indian, where I had to play Benoni type of variations. We slid the rook over with a6, b6, and it's always very satisfying. I mean, sometimes in the modern Benoni, like the rooks can actually double on the e file. I've seen Artash's Minassian and some other Benoni players can double their rooks on e7 and e8 in the same kind of method, or with the same kind of method. This is a good regrouping by white with bishop c2. But black's up a piece, and he has an initiative now. So he's got a lot of play, but he really shouldn't allow white to just play f4, because it seems like that's white's only chance to kind of roll with the central pawns, as you want to do, in the Benoni, any Benoni. The idea to play f4 and e5 and roll with the structure. And now queen f6 was like a kind of brute force move, but it's a front-loaded thing, and you don't want your queen in front of your rooks in this kind of Alekhine's or Alekhine's gun. The rook, queen in the back is the Alekhine's gun, but this is an Acerbate's gun with the queen loaded in front. It's not optimal. But something like rook f3, I mean, if nothing else, you can stop f4. Even if you have to give material back, this looks really, really interesting. Bishop d1 and sack the exchange back. You're close to mating white, probably. So stopping f4 seems like a priority. But he plays queen f6, and then white plays g5, which is terrible. He should play f4. And now, despite the fact that he's a piece down, it does look a little hairy. Like that center is really ominous, you know, and I don't know if I like this that much. White misses that. He plays g5, and now queen e5. Not the best move. Apparently, like queen f3 is just game over because he's just crushing white on h3. But Acerbate likes to not play those like overwhelmingly killing moves. He sort of toys with his opponent. So now he allows f4, and there's a really neat line here that he didn't see. Bishop g3 check, and after bishop g3 check, king takes g3, knight h5 check. He basically sacrifices his piece back, but he breaks white's back, I think, strategically. Like, and then the white king is just dead. For example, like takes, even if you trade all this stuff off, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes. Now the g5 pawn is falling, and the white king is under attack by 3 black pieces. So it's absolutely winning. The other knight can actually join the fray with knight g7, knight h5. Yeah, it should be the other way around with the queen in the back. So white stays alive here, and he builds up some threats, and then white just missed this, and the pin along the f file. So I'm not sure that white could have defended here at all. I mean, in any way, but rook g1 at least would have held the line for a while. He could have defended for a while with rook to g1. This is just nice. He found the shot now, and then he just lets this drop, and it's over. So, I mean, there's a lot of mistakes here by both sides, but I think overall, Acerbate shows potential. As we said, the rook a7 maneuver, really, really beautiful idea. Okay, so he won. There were a lot of mistakes, but overall, there's good improvement from Acerbate, I think. Okay, I've got 2 submissions from Pawn Pusher and S4. That's going to be, I think, it for today, guys. I've got basically 9 more games. Yobatis, JCS, Soltigo, Move 11, Nils, Marwa. Marwa will be last. Pass Pawn and S4. It's 8 games or something. We take the subscriber games, so if you're not a subscriber and we still have time, you know, we'll do that game last. But I think Marwa would be our first choice from the non-subscribers to the stream. All right. I need a glass of water here. I'm talking a lot. What's up, guys? Again, support the stream. We've got donations from S4, Move 11, 140 bits. I love talking, but sometimes the voice gets a little bit. We need Ponda to take over for a minute. Hey. All right. Acerbate, I was wondering why you didn't play h5. Because, you know, not just I wanted to play h5, but the thing is that the engine wanted you to play h5. h5 was a bone-crushing move near the end of that game. Okay? So, keep your eye out for the h-pawn. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Ponda. So, our next submission here is Yobatis. Where is he? The Spectacular Camel. Where is that game? Let me check this. Yobatis, where is it? It's on the next page. No, there it is. All right, Yobatis. Here it is. Game for analysis. Otherwise known as Spectacular Camel. The artist. Spectacular Camel against Zavir. 2090. Rufus and Doofus. You got a lot of emotes there, and Asprey with tons of panda emotes. Don't forget H5. But seriously, okay, let's flip the board. This is a game that Yobatis played with the black bits against Zavir, and this is rapid rated. Zavir is like almost 2100. It's pretty good rating. Yobatis just under 2000, and he's playing black. It's interesting here, he played the Sicilian because he's been playing a lot of Nimzovich defense with e4, knight c6. So we don't get to see this very often, but Yobatis, or Spectacular Camel, he does play the English with white. And obviously that gives you the ability, it's making sense. Playing c4 with white a lot is going to make it possible to play like the Sicilian defense, even if you don't know the theory that well. White played knight c3, the closed Sicilian. And here, yeah, it gets boring to play the same openings all the time. Spectacular Camel, I agree. I like to switch up. I like to play one for a while, kind of stick with it, and then move on to something else. Keep it fresh. So a6. Ironically, one of my people that I work with recently, he was asking me if there's any other good way for black to play other than knight c6 and g6, because traditionally this is like the way that black always handles the closed Sicilian, and I for the most part play this way. Knight c6, g6, bishop g7, and coordinated pressure on d4. But about 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit more even, I noticed a book by Richard Palliser, which is the first one I've ever seen where it's like a book on beating the anti-Sicilians. Maybe that's the title. But he actually didn't recommend g6. He was like, in the introduction to the chapter on the closed Sicilian, Palliser, who's like an English IM, he said, basically everybody plays g6, and I want to recommend something, other than g6. And so he did, Nils, he actually recommended e6 and a6. He kind of gave both lines. He liked to give 2 lines in his book, which I think is kind of cool approach. But e6 with the idea of doing some a6 type of setups in other move orders. So they're kind of interrelated, the e6 and a6. You can also play against the Grand Prix attack. Actually, Grand Prix attack is supposed to be not so great, according to Palliser, against the e6. Maybe it's better against g6. But anyways, Spectacular Camel wanted to play as far as I know, I think he wants to play the, looking for the word now, he wants to play the O'Kelly variation. The O'Kelly variation slipped my mind. I don't say O'Kelly every day. Yes, a6, and so if white plays like knight f3, this is an issue though. Like, what do you do next? You can't really play the O'Kelly variation. You have to play an extra move. Yeah, Najdorf players can play this system and this order of moves. See, the problem when you play the Najdorf, you can't play knight c6 because people will do this chameleon Sicilian. Okay, I mean, a lot of people will play like e5 here because there was even a Magnus game, wasn't there, recently? But basically, you can't just play a proper knight c6 move order and be able to play the Najdorf. It doesn't happen. So Najdorf players will typically play like d6. I think there's also the problem, of course, with knight e2. This is another chameleon. And then like e5, knight d5. This is a weird line where the hold on d5 is kind of strange. Black should be okay, but it's a little awkward to play. So I like a6. White should probably play g3 here. He played bishop c4. I don't think the Grand Prix is all that great. Mostly it's like recommended to play g3. And these lines are like b5, bishop g2, bishop b7. And again, Palliser's book from whenever it was, like 2007, it goes into a lot of detail. It's 10 years old, but I doubt the theory's changed that much. It goes into a lot of detail on this, and this has probably been explored quite a bit since the last 10 years. So what's that? I get annoyed by the move order tricks in the Sicilian e4, c5, knight f3, e6, knight c3, knight c6, bishop b5. Yeah, well, you don't have to worry about bishop b5 here. That's one good thing. It definitely rules out the Rossalimo. So White played bishop c4, the next best thing, and then I was joking with, I was joking with actually Yabatis about b5, but this isn't really quite sound. I mean, bishop d5, and there goes Asterbate with the lateral rook moves again. Some guy actually played this. I mean, I might play it in blitz. There's a weird line, like bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7. If you want to have fun, I mean, this is amazing. So g6, queen e5, forking pieces. It's like a really strange Noah's Ark trap or something. What is this? That is super weird, dropping that guy. Alright, so b5, definitely not sound. Okay, e6, the bishop on c4, it's like a closed English. White's playing basically like black here. So now b5 seems like a good move. And then bishop b3. And here, I don't know. I really don't know. I think that white, I would prefer knight e2 to knight f3, but black gets to move first. Knight c6. This move I'm not sure about, but I can't criticize it because you might prefer to play bishop b7, but the truth of the matter is the knight needs to come out, and you have two options. You can play knight c6 and bishop b7, or you can play bishop b7 and d6 and play it more like a hedgehog. But I think the problem here, in my experience, is that if you do this kind of hedgehog thing with like d6, it's a little bit passive, and you try to do like d6, knight d7, white will launch f4, f5, and basically black's playing the hedgehog against some kind of King's Indian attack. I don't think it works that well. So probably you should play like bishop b7, and you actually have to play for d5, I think, in this type of setup if you're going to do anything. All right, anyways, so knight c6 here is a really entertaining game. Knight f3, again, I prefer knight e2, but it's up to white. So knight f3, bishop b7, bishop f4. And this is kind of a rope-a-dope move, but I don't mind it, I mean, it's kind of like asking a question, what are you going to do? You got to worry about these dark squares. I don't mind the way that white played this. It's like non-traditional, but it's okay. d6, and now queen d2. Probably I wouldn't go as far as to play queen d2. I would think just h3, kind of like the guy played, giving yourself a retreat square with the bishop, like in the London system, back to h2, castle kingside, maybe, and just hang out, and I think that this is basically like how you would play with black against the English in some kind of Mosesian sort of system. Nils asks, how is this guy 2100 though? Nils, again, you're very biased toward openings, and actually it was funny because this player, Spectacular Camel, had the same feeling, like, how is this guy 2100? But I don't have a problem with the way the guy played. A lot of people just don't care about opening theory that much. And you can get up to a pretty good level. You can definitely become a master without a lot of opening theory. But you will see why he shouldn't be 2100 in a minute. Like, you haven't seen anything yet. I mean, this is actually not so bad. I've had FIDE masters play like this kind of stuff against me. They're just not theoretical guys, and they don't care about opening theory, and they just want to get a position. I mean, so far it's okay. He's playing the black side with closed English here. But you'll see what happens next. He plays queen d2. That move I'm definitely not really thrilled with. I think you typically like might maybe put the queen on e2, or just not put it anywhere at all. But anyways, not so bad. Here, knight f6, and then h3. I like this. You just go bishop e7, and now actually Yabatis could have played knight a5 at any moment, in my opinion, and just hunted down that bishop. A lot of people would hunt down the bishop on b3. I don't think that it's it's that crushing or anything. But it's interesting because if you did play knight a5, white's got to deal and worry about things like c4. Probably not a big deal, though, because you can always just take and go bishop a4. This is a typical Mosesian. Ivan Sokolov played this kind of stuff with colors reversed. And you think, oh, I've got a huge advantage. I'm getting his bishop pair. But it doesn't mean that much. Honestly, in a closed position, I don't think the bishop pair really means a heck of a lot here. I don't really think that black is much better. The Stockfish loves black because it loves bishops, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that big a deal. So what's up? Castle's knight c6 here. All right, knight c6, and then he goes g4, and I was like, whoa. Okay, this is how we know he's not 2100. When I saw this move, I was like, man, this is coffee house. Where are you going to put your king? I don't think that the g4 is that bad. I mean, okay, yes, the long diagonal is a problem, possibly. But the bigger question is, where are you going to put your king? Where are you planning on putting your king? You never castle queenside in the closed Sicilian unless it's like a Nigel short, bishop e3, queen d2, and bishop h6 real quick against the fianchetto type of thing. That's like the one exception to the rule. Like maybe you can do the Nigel short type of move 5 or move 6, bishop e3, queen d2, only if black does g6 and you're playing like bishop h6 and then h4, h5 and castling queenside really fast. But in general, you don't ever castle queenside in the closed Sicilian, and this is what the guy tries to do here. So g4 looked really fishy, and after black goes rook c8, he's like, look, I'm gonna like bust your face if you castle queenside. And the guy's like, I don't care, I'm just gonna castle queenside anyway. And so now you could again play knight a5, which I fully think is interesting. He just castled, which is fully sound, and then white played h4. And this was a nice try by white, honestly, because after some thought, we agreed that that this pawn here on g4 is really a greedy move to play knight takes g4. So, Soltigo, what's up? I didn't notice you're even in the stream here. Thanks for joining us. Our moderator, Mr. Soltigo, otherwise known as Subtletigo. White's walking a huge attack. He's trying to bring it with g4, g5. He's almost there. And if black wasn't active enough, he could easily get overrun. So he doesn't take the pawn. This is really risky. Some people might try this in a computer. I don't think like Leela would take it, but some older programs would definitely, that are more materialistic based, would probably take it. Like Ripko wouldn't, because I know Voss like programmed that engine to be not materialistic, and probably like a human like program like Leela wouldn't take it. But some of the older programs like Fritz or something might actually take this pawn and try to hold on to it. But that's really not the most dynamic way to play. So he plays really interesting chess here. I probably would have gone with knight a5 if I were black, and gone into just a kind of classic opposite wing attack. But I got to give credit to Yabatis here for playing c4. This is a really, really dynamic move, and he's sacking a pawn. And this is like, I don't think really calculation based, because if you watch his follow-up, I was expecting Yabatis to play b4 here. When I saw this, I thought, okay, you play c4. When he takes, you play b4. You kind of block that bishop. This is actually a theme in some lines of the Roy Lopez, where you play c4 and stuff the bishop on b3. Actually, the Grand Prix attack as well. But you can take away the defender of e4. So I figured he was going to do something like this, like win the e4 pawn and say, okay, I'm better because I took out your central pawn, and something like maybe queen e2, knight a5. There is some pressure here against the d6 pawn, so I don't think this would have been like lights out. But that's what I expected. But actually, Spectacular Camel here, he doesn't do that. And another move, you consider is like knight a5 again, another kind of ambitious way to sack a pawn. Also possible. But he just recaptures, and then I was really stunned because here again, knight a5, you kind of expect. But he goes with d5. And objectively, like, maybe this is going a little too far. I think he technically had better, but I like how it's inspired, Master Fugu sub badges. Thank you, Soltigo. I like that he was inspired and he sacked 2 pawns, take the initiative, and it works. But white, has g5 here. It looks like enough counterplay to keep him afloat. Like after knight takes e4, pawn takes e4, he gets to trade queens, which kind of breaks black's attack. So if this guy had been sensible, he would have traded all the pieces down into an ending where, his advantage is really very, very, his disadvantage, I should say, is very, very small. But white didn't have much sense of danger. After d5, he takes here, and actually, black, there's some really crazy variations. Like black has knight a5. There's even crazier stuff, I think, with knight b4. but he takes here, and I think this is a mistake. Now after knight takes d5, white's probably got a reasonable chance not to be like losing, let's say. This doesn't look that clear to me. You know, you're down a pawn with some compensation, but I don't see anything concrete for black. So it's unbelievable, though. He took with his bishop, which is really strange. After e takes d5, bishop takes d5. And, I mean, just offering this at all, you know, knight takes d5 looks surprising. But here, black played extremely well. He played queen a5. And I thought this was a good move. White makes a blunder now. He should play g5, just plowing forward. But a natural enough, like, second best move with bishop b3. But I think after this, white loses the initiative for sure. And now he's like, he's a pawn up, but he's definitely in some trouble because we see this whole long diagonal. I criticized g4 in the beginning. g4 leads to this problem. And then the king on the queen side, which doesn't belong there. Doesn't look like a closed Sicilian, but it was. So JCS gifted a tier 1 sub to Soltigo. He's given 4 gift subs in the channel. JCS, thank you. Alright, so knight b4. And here we looked at 2 different moves. The bishop b4 is also quite interesting. But it looks like ultimately knight b4 is better because we've got these Petrosian rook sacrifices. Like the most famous exchange sacrifice in chess is when Tigran Petrosian sacrifices the rook on c3. Rook takes c3, like in the Dragon. And sometimes in the Najdorf, it's possible to do rook takes c3. So it's 2 pawns up at this point. But now there's some serious problems. We're on a2. We've got exchange sacrifices on c3. And we've got the massive diagonal. And there's so many fun variations here. It looks like white has to make some kind of decision. I said rook h3. This was like the most normal move. Maybe rook h3. Defending like Shirov laterally. And we could definitely do an exchange sacrifice. And it's compensation. Probably compensation for the exchange. Like queen takes, knight takes a2 check. Bishop takes a2. Queen takes a2. And I like black, but I'm not sure that he's winning by force. It looks like the position is kind of unclear. Maybe white can defend and survive. But white wasn't precise here. Another idea is nice move is knight d4, actually. Knight d4, sacking in exchange, like bishop takes h1, rook takes h1, or maybe even knight f5 first, and sacking the exchange long term. This was also possible, but a little too over the top for the average player to find even a 2100 in blitz game. So he plays this a3, which just loses out of hand. And really, you could have even done like rook takes c3 here. No, I take it back. You can't because the queen takes c3. No, we've got to take on f3. Apparently, like this move is even possible. That's kind of weird, though. So I like the way Yabatis played this. Bishop takes f3. Yeah. Nils, thank you for the bit donation, 250. Well, we've got to thank Yabatis for providing us with a good game. He deserves credit. So bishop takes f3, and now we're winning back our material with interest. A takes b4, and then bishop takes b4. I like this. Like, he doesn't settle for queen a1 check. You know, knight b1, and maybe white can survive somehow. I mean, I guess this is very strong, but more difficult to calculate. So he just simply recaptures. And white is like in Zugzwang. It's just kind of like tactical Zugzwang. Because bishop takes b4 now, let's count the material. Okay, it's equal, except white is what? A pawn up. And I joked with Yabatis that this is like the most compensation I've ever seen for a pawn. I mean, like literally, he's 1 pawn down for all this. White is pinned, he's getting mated, he's losing the exchange on f3. This is just outrageous. So it's just an entertaining finish. Like king there. And then I said he should have taken with a rook, keeping the tension. We sort of joked about this, but he just cashes in. Bishop takes d1. And we take that, and then we take this. And now white can't take back with the pawn because the bishop takes c3. He's just getting mated on a1. Like, literally his best move is to take and sack his queen. Not enough for the pawn here. Rook takes c3. And instead, he should just not take the pawn, I guess. But he does that, and he sacks his queen, and I was joking. This is the finish here. Bishop c1. Now he takes the dangerous pawn on g4. And then white goes bishop b2, queen f3, and rook g1. And look out, because you can actually get fried even here. And now h5, but this move is good enough, like g6, and white's just lost. h5, one last chance to play for mate. And we were joking here after rook d1 check. Wait, there was still a way that black could get mated somehow. I don't remember. But he does this, and then just prosaic. Queen takes f7. Bishop takes, and just killing the fun. He just wins, giving the queen back in. And I don't know, man. I think this h-pawn is a little too much for white. So it's over. Anyway, entertaining games so far, guys. Let's go on to JCS. He actually submitted a game here for someone else. JCS submitted a game with someone else in mind. This is a game showed to him by fellow stream viewer Pichu99 that he played with white in an over-the-board game versus an FM. Could you please analyze without using the engine? Okay, so this is Pichu, who's Farkas István, against Shuto Gabor. And so this is played in my country of residence, of course, in Hungary. Let's take a look. Yeah, we'll turn the engine off. So, per request, if you guys prefer that, we'll analyze that way. I don't want to be like Maurice Ashley. Scandals for using the engine all the time. But I like to use the engine. I think if we use it in a controlled way, no, seriously, it's actually something we can learn from and start to adapt it. So, this game, Pichu's played really well against me. He's been impressive. His opponent here, I don't know too well. This guy, Shuto Gabor, he's really low rated now. I mean, he's down to around 2163, but I think he was higher, much higher. I mean, he had to go over 2300 to be an FM in the first place. So, I mean, sometimes these FMs can be kind of weak because there were these Scheveningen tournaments in the 90s where some players, kind of sketchy players, got the FM title that they maybe weren't really strong enough to get it. They eventually did away with these team tournaments, Scheveningen events that helped to a lot of players to get to the FM title. So there are some weak FMs running around who are like basically like 2100 strength. But I think this guy is pretty legit. Like he's decent. He played for one of the teams I played against, and I mean, I've seen him play a few games. He's not bad. I mean, he's definitely like a 2200 plus strength player. Here he's actually kind of underrated, at 2163. I think he's stronger than that. He also plays some funky kind of weird openings. I never actually played against him. But yeah, okay, he's probably my age or a little older, but he's not a professional, and I think he's probably lost a lot of rating points and stuff like most people. But he's dangerous. He's playing pretty weird stuff. Let's take a look here. Like e4, okay, Carol Khan, d4, d5. Pichu is white. Again, thank you JCS for submitting this game. So it's a mainline Carol Khan, but black plays knight f6. Now, I've played this line since 1990 when I played it against Joel Benjamin in a tournament where we were both 3-0 and I lost. And that was like a learning experience. I was like, this was one of the most stupid things I ever did. Like, played the GF Caro against a strong grandmaster in the prime of his career in a tournament where I'm like 3-0. It was a bad idea. But I learned that GF Caro is a dangerous system. I used to play it and I studied it quite a bit, but it's never been really successful for me. Probably this is a very good variation for black. Like the E takes F Caro Khan is extremely tough, but the problem is it's not very dynamic. This even might be black's best. Alyukin said that he thought that, but I don't think knight f6 is a bad move, Saul. I think this is actually a good line. Alyukin said he could like draw at will with this variation. But there've been some ideas for white. White still has a plus score here. There's stuff, but I mean this variation is still not refuted. It seems like this is a very very okay way for black to play. Um, yeah. So, but I mean winning chances are limited with black with e takes f. So most people don't play it. G takes f. Knight d7 is also hard to play. Saw. G takes f, knight f3. So it seems like you really, you don't have too many choices. You got to play. Although there was a recent book recommended or written by somebody recommending knight d7 Caro-Kann. Not easy to play. So the thing about some European names that I can't tell which name is given and which one is the surname. Well, mostly they're like, the European names are mostly like Western names. But Hungarian names are reversed. So, like some other countries. But as far as European names goes, mostly just the Hungarian is the only one I know of where the names are actually reversed. So Shuto Gabor, his family name is Shuto, and his first name is Gabor. So here, all right. First of all, knight f3. I think this is still probably the main line. I know c3, c3 is a legit move. I can't remember if Joel played it against me in this game from 1990 that I'm referencing. Maybe Joel did play c3 first off, straight out of the gate, There is something to this move order about that that's slightly, more interesting. There are defenses worked out for black, though. So knight f3, and now black plays rook g8. This is just a really, really rare move. Okay? Who's playing this? Belan Lopez, who's like a kind of maniac, he played it. Okay, it's a creative move, and it stops the bishop from moving. But probably, the setup that's normal for white anyway, which is g3, c3, g3, is the best. What's up, Move 11? I gotta get Streamlabs. I know. It's on my list of things to do, but I'm lazy, and I never do it. And Saul also recommended I get Streamlabs, and I'm signed up, but I just haven't activated it. So, wish I had more time to do everything I'm supposed to do. But Nils, to answer that question, yeah, that's something we definitely got to do. All right, so queen d3. This is just an interesting move. He's targeting h7. I had a game, now that you mentioned this, against Tushar. Now that you did this, I had this flashback of someone, picking off that pawn against me in one of my few g takes f Caro-Kanns here on the stream. But, I mean, objectively, I would probably play g3, if I saw this position. And now you got the queen d5, which is kind of standard, and the bishop g2. And then they can go like queen e4 check or something. I don't think that's a big deal here. But I mean, this setup is so rock solid with the pawn on g3 and the bishop on g2 and the king here. I mean, it's very hard for black to attack that structure. And then you go for counterattack. On the queen side, it's how Joel beat me all those years ago. He's just like fiend shadow the king side and then play like c3, b4, a4, and just launch the pawns if black tries to castle queen side. I mean, it's kind of a simplistic explanation. Yeah, maybe h5. Maybe black has to do something dramatic. But let's see what happens after queen d3. Okay. Queen d3, black played rook g6. I don't know, h5. I'm not sure if S4 was talking about this position. Queen h7, and it looks like that pawn is going to fall, but maybe, it's like a Sveshnikov or something. I mean, I have no idea what's happening here. Can we even do this? Like, just drop this pawn to play, like, bishop g4? Maybe, maybe. I wouldn't play queen d3, and I probably wouldn't know what to do with black. It's getting kind of weird. Perhaps f5? I know that we're ceding the e5 square, but at least we would like stop that whole business with the h pawn hanging. I mean, there really aren't a lot of other options, are there? Like, what happens on f5? It doesn't seem that bad for black. I don't like blocking the bishop though. So queen d3, rook g6. Maybe it's a good solution. I mean, it's kind of like a compromise. He doesn't have to play f5 and block his bishop, but he solves the problem of that pawn not hanging, on h7. So Belan Lopez is the GM, married to the Swedish GM. Yeah, Pia Kramling. Um, right. Yeah, I actually remember playing in a tournament in the Canary Islands, and they were there in like 1999. But I never. I just noticed that Belen Lopez is a guy who plays some really crazy stuff, like very strange things, extremely risky openings and stuff. Okay, so Rook G6, Bishop E3. This is a bit odd. Okay, um, I want a fianchetto, really G3. So I'm thinking, why do we need to play? Why do we need to play Bishop E3? I mean, I see that he's supporting his D4 pawn, but I think the first priority should be to play G3 and settle this whole business with Bishop G2 and castle kingside. Not to say that Bishop E3 is a bad move. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, I guess. And then Shuto here goes knight A6. Typical idea, I guess, for some of these weird lines where the knight can go to like C7 or even maybe sometimes to B4. Can you turn on the engine after Queen D3 only for a moment? All right, just for you, we'll look at it for one moment here. Queen D5, and it says that white is significantly better. Queen D5 sacrificing a pawn. Okay, that's all we're gonna do. Anyway, Rook G6, Bishop E3, Knight A6, and then C3. You know, I don't know about C3. It's certainly, again, not a bad move, but we're making a lot of pawn moves, kind of weird moves with Queen D3. I'm not sure what White's plan is. He is keeping the knight off B4. Can we castle queenside? Are we weakening our queenside? I have more questions than answers, but that's okay. It's good to have a lot of questions. You know, it makes you think about the position. This is kind of how I think, asking myself questions during the game. It's good to have an internal dialogue. I've also, you know, seen a lot of like self-help books, not only for chess but for poker, and the whole concept of like having a dialogue with yourself during the competition or the game or the tournament or whatever it may be is important. So I'm asking, like, you know, is C3 too weakening? Do we want to keep that pawn back and castle queenside, make less pawn weaknesses, or do we need to play C3 to keep the knight off of B4? What is your favorite cheese? I didn't know they had a daughter who's a chess player. That's interesting, Mule Skinner. Okay, so my favorite cheese is... who's being asked? I ended up liking C3 a lot, just not to allow counterplay. It seemed like a useful move. The only downside of C3 is in the event that we castle queenside, it seems to me, you know, softening like the white squares. So if if you're dead set on castling kingside and following up with the plan that you did, then I don't really see any problem with it. There could be, you know, some moment of disconnection when you play G3, Bishop G2, and your queen is like not protected on D3 or something like that. He played Bishop E6 here. There's something a little weird about black's setup, obviously. You know, Rook on G6, double pawns, knight on A6. But I'm a guy who's played this opening, so I kind of go on with it. Bishop E6, now G3, and now Queen D5. And I guess, so if Bishop G2, we could play Queen C4. But does this seem inconsistent somehow? No, he wants to get this Bishop F5 as well. Yeah, it also stops Knight H4. Is there any chance White could play Knight H4 here? Before Black has a chance. And this is not about like trying to take, you know, it's not only about trying to take the pawn there. I mean, obviously, these guys must have both figured on Rook G4 here. So, the white pieces are a little precarious. You can definitely consider greed. Greed is good variation with like Queen takes H7. I think computers might be inclined to go for something like this. But G3 and now something to D5 hitting our loose rook on H1, and we don't want to lose our right to castle kingside. Very interesting. Link to game. You want this game? I mean, I can give you the link to this game. I don't know if that's what S4 is talking about. So G3, this is interesting. Anyway, I don't want to spend all day on one, on a couple games. So he does this, black does this, bishop G2, and then bishop F5. And Shuto Gabor is able to play bishop E4, which basically gives him what looks like a valid position. He locks up the white square control, and he's nullified the bishop on G2. So right about this point, I was starting to think, okay, maybe Pichu has messed this up. Maybe black is a genius, and now he has a great game. But I'm not so convinced. After castles, white's position is very solid. And this is the whole basis of this entire G3 setup, G3, C3, actually. And it's looking like, okay, knight H4 is in the air. So he plays queen H5. I'm not sure that's even a good move. And now white plays rook E1. And then black played F5. And this is where I think I lost the thread. Because at this point, I'm engineless here. I fail to understand why Pichu didn't play knight E5 here. Because to me, this just looks like a good endgame. And I don't know. I just don't see anything for black. He has to like trade queens, and his structure is really dubious. So I don't know what conclusion you came to, Pichu, like, and maybe this isn't that devastating, but my gut instinct is that white is like a little better here, probably, based on structure, and like, even just your like centralization along the E file. Again, I haven't looked at the engine evaluation, but yeah, this was a very safe way to play, and it looks like white is better. So that would have probably been what I would have gone with. Instead, he doesn't. He plays rook Fe1, F5, and he tries to attack on the queen side, which is kind of a normal plan, but I felt like he left black a little bit unchecked here, as far as like king side threats and stuff. So knight c7 in itself, not really a bad, threat, but he's coming to, the pieces seem to be getting coordinated for black. Staking away d5, bishop g7, rook c1. Rook c1, not sure exactly why c1. I mean, d1 looks like a kind of usual place to go here. I don't know. Played rook c1, and then a5, trying to open the file, and black's still discombobulated. I don't know. Play a3, and perhaps we can just play a3 and give him the a file. Saul said bishop f4. I mean, this move in any moment might be a move. It might be a move, yeah. You've got to watch out for the d4 pawn and the threat of knight e6. Bishop f4 was better, like here. After c4 or without c4. So, I'm not sure. But after a5, black gets a little bit of counterplay. And then this b5, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. And at this point, I thought that black very well might be better. But I mean, I could be like wrong, It just looked like black is coordinated. He got his knight to a good square. And the c file doesn't mean a whole lot. So, again, you might have some knight e5 at some moment. But I don't like what's happened here structurally. There's really no reason for this to happen. I mean, even a3 might not be bad. We're talking about bishop f4 in some positions. He would go here, and I guess, well, actually, I don't know. Which moment are we talking about bishop f4? Because right now, I'm not convinced. I guess here, but then f6. So there's some complications that I don't know. I haven't really at all used an engine or anything like that. No clue what's going on. It's a little too complicated for me. So white lost control. After this, I thought black was better. B takes a5, rook takes a5, queen d2. Another way to play without allowing, another way to, without allowing the d5 square to fall into black's hands, basically. And now knight h4, and he just, this is a kind of, I wouldn't call this any sort of brilliancy. I mean, this kind of queen sacrifices. Obviously, white didn't think it was as strong as it is, but it looks pretty obvious to me, This is not like a brilliancy. I mean, in this case, he only gets 2 pieces, but he's got 2 pieces and incredible coordination and a very, very strong pawn. So while it looks like a brilliancy, I think it's a rather routine sort of queen sacrifice. And I have no clue. I mean, it doesn't look like there's any way to defend this. I assumed that white is like lost here. Soltigo suggested 20 rook c5. Well, at this point, yeah, I mean, there's probably like a way out. I don't think that white is beyond the threshold here. It was really knight h4 that lost the game, you know, and he just like I think he just got crushed here. There's really nothing you can do. I mean, I assume this is probably winning for black. Though, we should take a deeper look, I guess. Here, rook h3. Kind of a surprising move, you know. And there's no moves for like white, it looks like. Bishop f3 is a crushing threat. So you literally have to do this. And then rook takes, only move here, and knight d5. There's just no safety. The white pieces are all uncoordinated and they're all boxed into a little. So it was a nice win for Shuto Gabor, but it was really like, it was really pretty easy to play, to be honest. You know, not to take it away from him, but it really was pretty simple. And then white's rooks are just totally incapable of doing anything, and this is just like winning for black, I think, without a question. The king actually gets mated, and it's a nice finish. Actually gives mate here. So sadly, white lost, but an interesting game nonetheless. Okay, guys, so we went through that. Soltigo is up next. So what do we got from Soltigo? Might be a little late today. All right, let me see. Was this it? No. You can save my game for the end. If you want, we'll save it for the end. Then we'll save it for the end. We'll go to move 11. All right, Mr. Move 11. Move 11 substream game. MT versus Moshe Umener. Steinitz Lopez. Okay. I have not seen this game yet. Sometimes we've seen them, sometimes we haven't. Mushi pork. So move 11, I'm going to turn on the engine here, which I usually do for special requests. Turn it off. Alright, so move 11 is actually playing white. It's a Steinitz Lopez. He told me about this game. Again, thanks Neil Swint for the donation. Thanks you guys for subscribing. Spectacular Camel resubbing, and JCS giving out some subscription there to never knew how to pronounce his name. Moshe Umener. Moshe or Moshi. I guess Moshe. I don't know. So D4. Yeah. Well, this is our first question, really. When you face the Steinitz Lopez, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to approach this. You can castle kingside and get g5 from Mamedyarov. You guys know that there was, maybe not right away, but there was that horrible game that Grishuk lost, where he castled early, and then Mamedyarov beat him with some sort of g5 very, very early. So there's an argument toward committing your king. I think, why do you have to commit your king so early in the move, you know, in the move 4 situation against the passive setup like the Steinitz? Are you move 12? Who's move 12? So I remember for some reason I've always been like most drawn to playing c3. Now f5 here, the engine is actually, the engine wants to play f5. You know that the so-called, what is it, Steinitz deferred with like a6, bishop a4, d6, c3. This is like the siesta variation. It's funny, like this is actually a kind of big line. You know, I don't know that it's sound, but it's always been considered interesting. I remember there were articles about this years ago in a local magazine here, Chess Horizons, by this guy Joe Shipman, whose father was an IM, Walter Shipman, an old school player from New York. What's that? Wasn't it against MVL? Mamedyarov won the St. Louis Rapid? No, that's something else. It wasn't a Lopez. That was a Joko Piano. And Mamadjarov just likes playing g5. You know, he does it in every kind of situation. But against Grishuk, it was some kind of Steinitz Lopez a few months back. Yeah, but anyway, I'm just thinking like c3 kind of keeps the tension, plays a tense kind of game. I sort of like it. Funny how f5's never played though. Isn't that weird? I mean, you'd think like it would be absolutely interesting. You know, why should a6 bishop a4 exclude this from being a possibility? This definitely deserves more attention. Similar to the James West line, the absolutely similar to the, you know, to the Philidor Gambit or whatever it's called, but different because the bishop's on b5. You know, you can't like play bishop c4 in one move. Very interesting here that Stockfish is only giving white plus 0.6. That's like totally making it look like it's viable. Interesting. I mean, c3 is not really a common move though. You know, you see the d4 much more often. So anyway, d4, he plays ed. Yeah, I mean, this actually transposes to what? Well, it depends on what white wants to do, because you can take with the knight or the queen, you know? Knight takes is more principled. I mean, queen takes is like a lazy man's move. It's good, you know, but this transposes to bishop d7, and then you like have to take and play these positions. I think this is limiting, though. It's kind of a lazy way to play with white. So I find a much more interesting struggle. After saying knight takes d4, some famous game by Emanuel Lasker with black in this line, actually. A kind of classical Steinitz. And Steinitz had been his mentor, so. Okay. Bishop d7, this is our game in question. Now white played bishop takes c6, which I guess is not that bad of a move. But the famous game that I was alluding to, where Lasker was black, you know, and he was playing like Tartakova, or I don't remember who it was, but I just remember that black played a very creative game, and the pieces stayed on the board. The tension remained here. So I don't know too much about bishop takes c6 in this position. B takes c is very logical. Bishop takes c6, while a legal move, seems illogical to me. Like, you just have a kind of worse structure there. So b takes. Black has the bishop pair this way to compensate and offset his structural disadvantage. So castles, and now g6. And that's a dynamic move. Black could certainly play, you know, bishop e7, and we could transpose to what looks like more of a kind of typical line. Queen f3. That looks kind of scary. Reminds me of the Rossolimo Sicilian, actually, a little bit. So g6 turns out to be black's best move. And now white played c4. And this is absolutely logical. Kind of like the g6 I recommend against the Scotch. Black played c5 now. And the downside of that is that it's committal. I mean, there's only one game here. Usually keeping the tension I prefer. So bishop g7. Most people, Afromeyev there. Where's Nefyedov? Afromeyev, his hero. But c5 very committal early, you know, deciding where the structure is going to go. Knight f3. You got Bologan versus Ivanchuk. Good company. And then f6, and this is a Belen Lopez move. I was referencing him earlier. But I mean, man, f6 is so just inflexible. Wow, he must have really been terrified of e5. But it's hard to see like why you can't just play bishop g7. I mean, Vasily did this. And yeah, it looks like e5 is possible. So, but even Bologan was afraid to do that. Crazy, huh? So he's refuting the possibility of e5 here, but going into a kind of passive position. Bishop e3. Now, this move is a bit weird for me. I just don't know where I want to put that piece. move 11. Now the engine, of course, justifies it, says that's its first choice, but I do know that my knight is going to go to c3. That's one of the only things I actually am sure about in this position with white. You know, so I would kind of like out of default play knight c3 and say, okay, then I'll decide what to do. You know, knight c3 is like mandatory because you have to control these Marazzi squares like d5, b5, e4, and you're certainly not putting that anywhere else. So, okay, I don't know. You know, if you want to play bishop e3, I'm just not sure what it does there. What does the bishop even do there? You know, knight c3. Another alternative would be b3. That would be the idea of putting the bishop on b2, possibly. The one way you wouldn't play knight c3, maybe you would put it on d2 or something like that. But this is a complicated strategic game. If you play b3, black could play a4, maybe break your queen side. So bishop e3, bishop g7 here. And it looks like move 11 is basically playing for bishop h6 ideas. But it's like, do you even want to do that? With that guy's bishop being so bad? I'm not sure. And that's the question. Then he plays this. Doesn't really make sense. Why doesn't black just develop his pieces here? Knight e7, and then you've got knight c6, knight e5, castle the king. So I don't get it. You know, I mean, bishop e6, wasting a tempo, moving the same piece twice. b3, and then, I mean, okay, a5, a4 break, maybe, but that's going to take some time here. And he's still got knight c6, okay, here. Castles. Now, don't play bishop h6 unless you have a really good reason to do that, because I think that that is going to trade, you know, good bishop for a bad bishop. Maybe once black plays f5, you want to seriously consider it, but you might want to keep it on ice until then. Until this guy actually commits to f5. So move 11 knows. Plays a sensible move here. Knight c6. Now knight d5. Hard to improve white's position to think about what to do now. What's the plan? Rook e1, the computer move. h3, other computer move. Yeah, it is hard to come up with a plan, isn't it? It looks like a King's Indian. h4 is a bad idea, yes. The Ponda. No doubt, you know, I mean, at this point, Ponda would definitely play h4. This is... Oh.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, I think it's an interesting idea for a rapid game or maybe a blitz game. But even I have to admit that perhaps h4 is a little bit... It's a little bit coffee house here. It's a weakness. You know, I don't know. The white squares are particularly sensitive since white doesn't have that white square bishop. h4 looks a little bit optimistic, you know, I'll say that. So I would play a nice tight move here for white. Let's say knight c6, rook e1. And I don't need the engine to find that move. I mean, it's just a logical move. You're putting the rook in the center of the board. The problem is, what's the plan next? It's not going to be easy. I would prefer h3, actually. Just kind of hang out and wait and see. Maybe h3, knight h2, knight g4 could even be a plan. We need a kind of maneuver of some sort. Not an easy position for move 11. He played knight d5. It's not a bad move. It does give him a5, a4 break, though, as the computer is rightly pointing out. He also could play bishop g4 at some moment. Rook f7, black kind of just defending. Knight f4. Okay, and then he doesn't go to g4. What was the plan? I guess queen d5. What is the plan on the event of like bishop g4? Are we gonna turn into like Joseph Henry Blackburn and play king h1 or something? Is that what's gonna go on here? Like attack black? I mean, I don't know. You know, I think this is where h3 weakens the king side, but maybe controls the white squares a little bit. Not easy position to give you a break. And the lazy move is this. I mean, I wouldn't really object if you played this. Like, the proverbial shit is going to hit the fan eventually. So you're facing a potential bishop pair that could be dangerous. I don't think this is my favorite move, but I would play it if I had nothing else. Because, it's like safe, but rook e1 probably. So knight d5, rook f7, knight f4, and he goes here. And this is ultra passive. So he's absolutely just trying to draw or frustrate you till you lose your mind. Queen c2, rook e8, rook e1, good. And then he finally discovers bishop g4. We've all been wondering like why that couldn't have been played before. Then h3, and now we again get into Joseph Henry Blackburn territory. Bishop takes f3, inducing the dynamic pawn structure. Targeting the king side, king g2, and now f5 with play. So things are getting more interesting for him than for you. I mean, basically the only criticism we have here is like allowing this doubling of pawns for white. And then he's kind of moving back and forth. Now f3, this knight's coming in here. There's a lot of pressure down the f file. It does look a little scary. He apparently had g5. Okay, I didn't think this was fatal, but it does lose a piece. It looks like it's Asterbate's game, where he trapped the guy's bishop on f4. Pretty much the same thing. Self-trapping bishop. So move 11 has to play carefully here. Yeah, this was really a game where white just couldn't find a plan. Worthy of study. But I think if we go back a few moves, he ended up losing there. We go back a few moves. While knight d5 wasn't a bad move, I think right here you need to get everything organized. This was fine, and then this move, just it's too early to like move the same piece twice again. This is constructive. This is constructive. Not to say you have some exciting, brilliant ideas, Maybe you can incorporate knight d5, knight f4, knight e2, knight f4. But just slowly improving the position little by little. Careful study of like Karpov's collected games would be a good cure for this loss. All right. So the end was just not good. Move 11 just gave up quickly when he lost a piece here. Getting his own pieces trapped. Probably time pressure related. But queen d2 just blundering. Knight h5, f4. Maybe there's hallucination involved. Like you thought you had queen d5. Some kind of trick. But it may not work. So he basically just dropped a piece. Queen d5 here. And then knight e7. And that's probably what he missed. Basically dropping a piece. Alright. Let's finish and go on to the next game. So we did move 11. We did JCS. We've got Nils. Soltigo goes to the back of the line. Nils, pass pawn, Mule Skinner, and Marois. And Soltigo. You would have won with h4, trust me. Well, h4, it's not my style, and I think that it's a little unsound. But objectively, it's a way to play, But I think that you would have run into similar troubles. If this guy decides to play bishop g4, okay, he can't do it in that position. But he's going to play eventually like this kind of move could be a threat. H4, it's playable, but I don't like it. I think it's loose and not really quite appropriate. It would be fine if you were like not castled or something, but it looks a little weird to do that in your castled position. I don't like it. Creative. Okay, next game. Guys, thanks for watching and subscribing again. Nils is next. He invited me to game study. Okay, so this is a live game. And Nils is black. So let's see. Reti opening number 2. G3, D5, bishop G2. And I mean, I'm recommending to a lot of people to play this system as I did to move 11, with C6 and bishop G4. That's kind of the standard go-to defense, but it obviously depends on what your repertoire is, really. I mean, it's obviously easier if you're playing like D4, D5 or something like that. An easy way to play, C6 and bishop G4. You could also play like bishop g2. Well, I don't know about bishop g4 here. I guess it's playable, but usually c6 first. That's the most solid way to go. But not everyone's cup of tea, and Nils likes kind of sharper stuff. You got to be careful when you're black, though, that you don't overreach. Anyway, so castles, okay, g6. That's fine. White plays d3. I mean, d3 it's pretty lame. I'm curious about this d4, honestly. Reverse Grunfeld. I actually never played this, but I might start playing it with white because it's kind of like not symmetrical. It's an interesting imbalanced position to play the Fianchetto Grunfeld. Like you're playing black in the Grunfeld with the white pieces. Nils, thanks again for the 100 bits. So try to turn it around. Play hyper modern chess here. White plays d3. This is okay. This is tedious. Bishop g7 and then knight on bd2, and we've got our standard King's Indian attack. But he plays c3. c3 is, to me, it's not quite necessary yet here. Once you play knight on bd2, you've thrown out all their options as far as any plans other than playing e4. If he doesn't play knight on bd2, he could try different stuff. He could play something like knight c3. He could play c4. So you got different formations, but once you play knight on bd2, there's no other plan. Knight c6, okay, this is all standard. c3. I'm looking at this from the perspective of a Fianchetto King's Indian with the other color from the other side, you know, and you generally wouldn't really always play c3 so early, or c6 as a King's Indian player so early. Here, castles, and now e4. And let's see what Nils does here. I mean, you can't pretend you're white. You're a tempo down in this position, so you have to be a little bit careful about how you play the position. The Stockfish wants to play d takes e4, which is interesting, but it feels like a positional. It just feels like a positional mistake to make this exchange. You're trading your central pawn, you know, d takes e4, d takes e4, and like there's tons of games here, but I think that exchange doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I don't think that the Stockfish engine can really appreciate the long-term ramifications of this position. I mean, the fact that black's giving up his strong point on d5 is not really necessary. So, something like queen c7, keeping the tension, I prefer. Here Nils played e5, and he's playing it like he's white, but I'm afraid we might be, you know, playing a sharp position, a tempo down where it counts. I don't know, you know. So I like queen c7, just kind of keeping the tension, a safe move without committing to any kind of exchanges. I guess after rook e1, though, you're going to have to make a decision. It looks like this is a line, though, rook d8, kind of creative approach without playing e5. It's a matter of style. Plays e5. White plays rook e1. You know, and maybe he should take, because that seems like if you're a tempo up and you want to like take advantage of your extra tempo, opening the position makes more sense. This is a line. There's games here. Lots of strong players from both sides, so who knows. But anyways, all right, rook e1 and then bishop g4. Bishop g4 is a mistake. We're out of book, and we don't want to trade this bishop under any circumstances here, Nils. And actually, h3 is probably a constructive move for white. So we can't play bishop g4. It's just not a good idea. What can we play? Any kind of prophylactic move. What I don't like is taking. You know, I think this is weak. Maybe d4. For the record, I don't know theory and the ready, so okay. Well, it's not a ready. It's a Grunfeld or King's Indian. But you could also play d4. So I think either of these kind of formative moves makes sense. Take your pick. Reshevsky said that shutting down the rook on e1, The Art of Positional Play by Sammy Reshevsky, very good book. An old book, but a good book. He argues about playing closing the center when the rook is embarrassed on e1, you know. It's justified. Here's a game, Kamsky versus somebody from 2015. This other move, other moves you can play here, like rook e8. Okay, this has got to be possible. But it appears that h6 is actually the safest when white doesn't have access to like g5. But not knowing theory here, I guess I would lean toward d4 after rook e1. This is definitely a mistake. White plays h3, and you know, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay for this exchange. Probably having said, bishop g4, maybe now you have to exchange it. Because what are you gonna do? Play bishop c8, bishop e6, get hit by knight g5, bishop d7, drop, likely tactics on d5. Can you get away with this, for example? Knight g5, allowing like knight g5 would be a big question. I don't really like it. So I don't know. I don't like bishop g4, and I don't like giving up my bishop. But, having said A, maybe you have to say B. My first instinct is to take with the queen with white, because it's like a constructive move of sorts. You're sort of developing a piece with that. The bishop is the last piece I would take with. I think about knight takes and the path of the knight. Where is the knight going? Can the knight go somewhere beneficial like h4? There's no f5. So I don't know. I mean, all captures are okay for white, but this for me I'm not sure about. Now d4. You definitely want to close the position. I mean, because this guy has got the bishop pair. He plays c4. And immediately, like, the engine likes black. Bishop e2 is kind of a tough move to play. I mean, that's pretty sophisticated. Basically becomes an old Indian with colors reversed. Pawn takes pawn seems okay for me. I don't see anything wrong with cd. Yeah, queen takes, and now the backward pawn on. And we see, if anybody saw the game, was it Grishuk against Nakamura? Where Nakamura allows the backward pawn on d3 from St. Louis. Yeah, check it out. See what happens when you allow a backward pawn like this against a strong player. Very nice game by Grishuk, by the way. Okay, so game continuation, c4, he closes it up. And a6 now. Nils is looking for b5 break. Seems okay to me. Knight f1, I don't know what else he's going to do. He's basically playing the check Benoni Asterbait. White is playing the check Benoni now. But I mean, it makes more sense to play like the engine's saying, like move the bishop and play for f4, because that's your break. Knight f1, yeah, the knight's in the way, definitely, but its path from f1 is not clear. b5, a good move. b3, okay, knight e8, another good move. He is basically preparing for the f-file. He can't play f5 though himself, but I like the idea of putting the knight on d6. Ideally, what black should do here is find a way to magically trade the dark squared bishops and then play with like two knights against bad bishop and knight. Okay, this is going to be a closed game. Knight d6, bishop g2, a5. Playing for play on the queen side, that's probably good. Maybe this is the correct decision, just making, a concrete plan for white, trying to just break your pawns up a little bit. You got access to c3, but it shouldn't be fatal. Here, bishop d2, and then knight b4, and now it's obviously getting kind of awkward. White has some sort of tactic, but bishop f1 looks like a totally normal move. That would be ugly, like knight a3, threatening to go to c2, rook c1, and dropping a pawn, or not. Can't take on a2. This would be a funny continuation. But fundamentally, Nils played right. He played on the queen side, on his side of the board. He got a knight on c3. And white got this embarrassing, backward bishop on c1. a4 breaking through. And just in time. And we can take. And like Nefedov did against me the other day, he stole my a pawn. And now it's just a pawn up. So fundamentally very good. Breaking through, it looks good. And now queen c2. Did white have anything? Bishop takes c3. Knight takes c3. Maybe white has some hope, opposite color bishops to make a draw in this kind of position. You know, seriously, is DC a move? It doesn't look like a bad idea. I wonder what your idea was here. Because this is more imbalanced and kind of interesting. If you take with a knight, I'm afraid that that might like give white legit drawing chances. He's only down a pawn on opposite colored bishops. It's a little bit weird. So I like this other capture. But anyways, white play what? Queen c2. Now bishop takes c3, d takes c3, same thing. And rook c8, you're looking for c4. Obviously you could just like triple our second deformed Alyekin's gun here today. But I like the way that, you know, Nils is paying attention to the pawn breaks he needs to make. Knight d2 blockading c4. There may be some sort of tactical problem. Knight b4, rook takes a4, queen takes a4, queen takes a4, knight takes a4. Okay, this is lost. So white can't do this. He can't do this because of the d3 pawn. So he has to take here. And again, I think you should take with the d pawn. But it's still not over. I mean, it's really, really scary for white, but it's not over. And in fact, this could be a good move. So I don't know what Nils would have done. I mean, maybe he would have taken with a knight and just been a pawn up. But I think here, you know, you're talking about a situation now with opposite colored bishops where maybe white can put up some legitimate defense. I've taken with a knight probably. Okay, he's being honest. I mean, this is the thing. Maybe white can hold on, you know, in this fairly simplified kind of position. It's not going to be easy, but it's still hard for black to break through on the white squares, even a pawn up. So going back to the game after this continuation here, knight d2 he decides to play. That may be white's already in trouble. Knight b4 and queen b3. This is dropping. You know, we're just dropping on d3. I mean, that the loss of the d3 pawn is the end of white's center, or what was left of it. A bad bishop for both sides. I mean, you might as well just take these bishops off the board. They're just picture examples, you know, of bad bishops. And then queen takes a4, but this is lost now. I mean, you can't lose the second pawn. So it's over. Yeah, I mean, it's totally over. Two pawns here and two connectors. So white could have put up more resistance, but overall, I mean, Nils had a much better idea what he was doing. But bishop g4, if we go to that point, I mean, I want to criticize that. If we're going to be, you know, self-critical, this is a bad move. You don't want to give up your white squared bishop in this position. It's really your better bishop. You want to try to play like h6 and like bishop e6 if you can. Okay, so who's next? Pass pawn. Getting through the games here. We've got 50 minutes left in the stream. So passed pawn. Soltigo will go last. Passed pawn. So, all right. Let's see chess base game. Whoa. All right, we got the game over on chess base. All right, whatever. Can I copy and paste this into Lichess? No, it doesn't. Chess-based viewer is not friendly like that. Free chess-based viewer. I've tried to do it. I don't know why I'm even thinking about it. All right, if you want to pay all the money for like legit chess-base, you can copy and paste your games, but they're not going to let you do that here. So we will just look at it right here from the browser. You can see it. I don't know if I can make the board any bigger. Let's see. Can I do that? Yeah. How's that? Look a little bit better. I'll move my. I have to move my photo, man. You're making my life difficult here. All right, we'll go over here. But let me forget to move it back. This is pass pawn against King Hunter from Chess-Based Light. All right. So knight f3, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6, d4, knight on bd7. Nothing you can really do about this. There's no way you can exploit this move order. You just have to transpose to a knight bd7 mainline classical. So here, bishop e2, castles, castles, e5, d5. Okay, you decided to play d5 here, and I've faced it many, many times. I used to play black in these positions, but eventually I gave it up in favor of trying other stuff. Asterbate says, I know of King Hunter. So I've played this position a lot from Petrosian systems once you play d5, but it's not really white's best move. I mean, it seems like keeping the tension here again is the best. So you can choose both the main lines, bishop e3 and rook e1. I've played rook e1 more myself. A recent game last year, 2 years ago, against Gajic, this guy in the Zalakaros Open. I beat some Slovakian FM. Maybe he's an IM, I can't remember. But I guess IM. Rook e1. d5, though, closes the center pretty early. So this move is considered to be like second best or third best, giving black knight c5, queen c2, and now a5. I've played a lot of games with black, and I kind of think the way black played here is very standard. Like knight e1. Another idea for you is possibly to play bishop g5, I guess. I think I've faced that. I've faced, over the years, bishop e3. Winning and losing some games with the black pieces. But, okay, knight e1, b6. I don't think I would play b6 unprovoked. It just slightly weakens the queen side. It weakens the c6 square. So can we do anything more aggressive? I mean, he's obviously discouraged knight h5. Yeah, you're white. I don't want to get confused about which side I'm annotating this for, but I do sometimes. Can black go knight h5? I think that might be a line. Kind of like the modern Benoni, where you let the pawns actually get smashed up there. But if black can get an f5, he has a really free game. So that's one idea. That's my best option there as the most aggressive way black could play. You could also play like tighter to the vest, closer to the vest, as they say, with knight e8, f5. Okay, b6 isn't a bad move by your opponent. f3. I don't like f3 because you're actually making it easier for him to play knight h5. So you can do something else that's more constructive. I guess you do feel like, you can't play knight d3 if he's if he's got, pressure on e4. Oh, a famous trap here that happened to a friend of mine. Well, my friend was playing black, I think. He did this to the guy. Rook b1, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4. This is funny. And queen takes e4, bishop f5. It's not a good way to lose the exchange. It's really a beautiful trap. I've never actually caught anyone in this though, with black. The standard plan of playing like a3, b3, and like rook b1 and b4 would be like your strategic goal here. But you have to play probably b3 first, and then a3, and then like maybe even something creepy crawly like rook b1 doesn't work, so you have to do rook a2 and then b4. Very strange, but it's possible. b3, a3, rook a2 with the idea of b4, and that might be one of best options for white. I did play the Petrosian system sometimes. So f3, and you give him h5, and that gives him a little bit of play. Okay, it's not the end of the world. You could choose to try g3 here and just stop knight f4, but it weakens your king side. So instead you played like bishop e3, black plays f5, white plays knight to d3, and now he plays f4. And I'm not sure what black should do here. It's not a classical King's Indian, and he doesn't have quite as strong that kingside pawn storm, maybe as you wouldn't typically see in a classical rather than a Petrosian system. I'm not sure if f4 is preferred for black here or not. So f4, bishop f2. And then, you expect him to, like, roll with the pawns with, like, g5 now, for lack of a better plan. This would be what I would certainly, like, anticipate. G5, knight f6, and trying to play h5 and g4. But he doesn't. He plays queen g5, threatening the not-so-subtle bishop h3. Now you played rook fc1. I guess the problem here is that bishop h3 is a very real threat, and king h1 allows queen h6 type of ideas. So you basically have nowhere to go. So you play to prepare bishop f1. I mean, I guess I would not know where to put the rook. Maybe rook e1. Yeah, I'm terrified. But if he doesn't have anything, he doesn't have anything. The question will be, maybe rook c1 is a good move because it gives you, like, queen d1 in some positions. This guy played knight a6. I mean, this is an unbelievable move. Like, okay, bishop h3, bishop f1, and now I'm thinking crazy stuff. Like, I was, like, seriously thinking if black had played this. Does this just make any sense at all? Can we do this? I mean, we take a piece here, and then, like, black takes back. Is there any soundness to this piece sacrifice here? I mean, we could even take on h3. Don't know. I don't know. But I don't understand. Okay, I don't know about that, but I don't understand knight a6. That's a pretty weird move. a3, bishop d7, king f1, running away. Knight c5, now he goes back, which is illogical. b4, and now knight b7. Now you've got the classic queenside advantage. c5, breaking through. I'm not sure, if there's any counterplay for black here, but I like it. bc, bc, and now c6, which just doesn't look right. That's your side of the board. I mean, it really should be good for white. Rook a b1, rook f b8, knight a4, big hold on b6, knight takes c5, knight b6, rook a7, and now knight takes c5, d takes c5, knight takes d7, rook takes b1, rook takes b1, rook takes d7, d takes c6, and that's all we really need is, like, a very strong passed pawn. So black's probably lost. Rook c7, bishop c4, king f8, and basically a landslide. So I don't know. I don't think we have to talk about this anymore. Nice game by white. All right. So Marwa is asking, can we see Marwa's game, please? Marwa is still waiting. We've got one more subscriber before Marwa. Mr. Is it too late for Marwa, though? Maybe. What time is it there? Yeah, we'll see Marwa's game. Mule Skinner will wait because he's got to go to bed. We've got time. All right, we'll do Marwa's game. Mule Skinner, I hope you don't mind. I know it's late for both you guys. Let's see. Marwa is the younger. We'll quickly go over this game. So this is a nice win. Marwa played a blitz game in our tournament against Mysterious Expert, and he's got a good score. He's 2 out of 3 against Mysterious Expert. So Marwa is white here. He plays d4, d5, bishop f4, knight c6. No, Marwa's black. I'm sorry. He was black. It's a London system. Knight c6. And I think that against that, bishop f4 is a pretty good system, actually. So knight c6, not really the greatest choice against the London system. But Marwa doesn't, he doesn't really do opening theory that much. He's focusing on other aspects of the game more, which I agree with. But, e3 is kind of the main move here. So he plays that. Then bishop f5. So I've seen other stuff. f6 even. But f6 just invites c4. I would think that c4 would be... c4 would be really critical. Only one game here in the sharp position. I'm not sure what would go on. Morwaz's moves are much more sound, though, like bishop f5. C3, though, this move is just too passive. It's just too passive. I mean, white loses all advantage playing c3. Just a fundamental mistake. This mysterious expert, I'm impressed by the kid's like ability to get out of bad positions and his speed of play, but he isn't playing well yet. You know, maybe later he will. But I mean, like, just playing fast seems to be the main priority. This is a very bad move. E6, and then knight d2. White has no advantage to speak of. Okay, the knight on c6 is not great, but white's position is kind of passive. I thought this was a good move. Here, standard move, knight f6. And here I wasn't sure. I mean, you might want to put your knight on e7, or you might want to put your knight on f6. With knight e7, the last game was played by pass pawn, Asterbait, yeah. That wasn't, I had fixed the camera, thank you. I wasn't, that wasn't Nils. And Nils was the game before that, Asterbait. The last game was pass pawn, the one we did in the chess-based reader. So, we don't usually do that, but it was okay. I didn't like that I couldn't draw arrows. So knight f6, knight f3. That's the problem with chess-based reader. You can't copy and paste the games into Lichess. I banged my head on the wall with that before. Okay, knight f3, castles, and then bishop e2, rook e8. Good kind of waiting move here, and then knight e5 eventually, releasing tension of a sort. Yeah. So what should white do? I mean, white could castle, or he could make some queenside space gain like a4 or b4. The engine likes knight h4, but this move makes life easy for Terry. He just takes with the bishop on e5. Shockingly, the engine is saying knight e7. I mean, this looks really crazy to me. Really crazy. Like, I can't believe Stockfish is recommending this move. How can that possibly be justified? Knight e7. Then you're going to have to move the other knight to play f6 to kick the knight off of e5. That's a long process. I mean, I would side with you to play bishop takes e5. I think this is fine. Bishop takes e5, d takes e5, knight d7. And then you do have the other option to go to e4 on that move too. I think this is equal. Black is equalized, no problem. But this is like, okay, more aggressive, attacking the pawn on e5. He has to play a move now, f4. White could try knight f3. I don't know how bad it is. It's less weakening than f4. But then again, you could set up the pawn on e5. I guess he's going to lose the pawn on e5. Okay. So he has to play f4. And now his structure is messed up. Wait, there is one other move, I guess. Bishop b5, no? I might be missing something here. Bishop b5. Wow, guys, check this out. Knight takes e5, bishop takes e5. This is engine. Knight takes e5, bishop takes e8, knight d3 check. And Stockfish is claiming an advantage for black here. After king f1, queen takes e8. I'm not sure I'm like completely on board with this. That's really striking. Wow. Now pawn does h4 is super appropriate. Turkey Farm, welcome to the stream. What's up, guys? So, absolutely. h4.
Yes!
Yes. But, no. I don't know. You know, I can't believe the engine is really saying that black is clearly better here. Yeah, he's got a nice exchange sacrifice. He's got a pawn for the exchange, and white can't castle, but is it that big of a deal? Really? Okay, that's the second pawn. We can't give up the second pawn. So I guess the moral of the story is that the second pawn can't be protected. Can we just play b3? Yeah, we got to play b3. Wow, really neat idea. Anyway, unclear if this would have been found. But white plays f4. Okay, a5. Kind of weakening move, but gaining space. I mean, knight c5 is much more natural. It looks like a Rubinstein game. Rubinstein versus Dosor-Hodmirski or something like that. Um, but knight c5, normal move. Terry plays a5. It's not a bad move, grabbing space. Now he plays bishop g6. He's playing fast, no doubt. But again, knight c5 is better. I mean, this is just where you want to go. Although bishop g6 is probably not a bad move. Queen e1. I have really no idea where he's going there. Queen e1 seems entirely random. Here, knight e7. That was passive, actually. So for some reason, Marois wasn't really tuned into this possibility of playing knight c5. But it's a very standard maneuver in these London systems. Usually where black goes like c5, c4, knight c5, like Dosor-Hodmirski did against Rubinstein in this game from like 1908 or something, but maybe it was later, I don't remember, but I wasn't there. So he doesn't tune into that. He plays instead knight e7. Still correcting the knight is the right idea. Playing very solid and very, very fast. White plays bishop h4. This is a good move. And now g4. White goes totally ballistic with g4. And then you turn it against him. He's weakened himself. And black is now taking the initiative. And then it's just totally justified to take this pawn. What it would be normally a poisoned pawn isn't poisoned because there's no rook b1. And that bishop's really cutting. And f5 just doesn't seem to really work. I mean, maybe he could play bishop takes e7, but the d2 knight is hanging. So white just lost the thread totally here. And now a4, knight d4, bishop e4, and the only chance is f5 for white. But there is the fact that the pawn on e5 can drop. I mean, if you play f5, it's a lot to calculate, and the f-file looks a little scary breaking through on f7. I'm kind of surprised he didn't try that. Oh, that's what he did do. Okay. So actually, yeah, he did play this. And now Terry played e takes f5. And this turns out to be a good decision because it like stops the f-file. It just blocks the f-file. Here. And now knight takes e5. And white has a glimmer of hope when he plays f6. But he doesn't give him anything. He just plays knight g6 and his pieces is hanging. But, I mean, maybe you could just take on g7 here with white. Is there a reason why this is not possible? Knight takes h4. Queen takes h4. And then c5. You just hide behind that pawn on g7. It's really nice. White actually has no threats. So it was nice defense. Hiding behind the pawn. f6, knight g6, good calm move. And after bishop g5, another good move, just h6, bishop f4, and c5. Basically like almost a perfect execution here. And he played knight b5 and rook e6, another good move. Rook e6 is actually the engine suggestion. I mean, I'm not sure I would have found that, because you got the fork here. And this game was really well played by black. He forks you, rook takes f6, so it ends up being like a rook sacrifice. But there's all sorts of threats. It's just ridiculous. Knight d3, it doesn't work. But there's knight takes f4 and rook g6, which is the killer. So that's what happens. Takes and then allows this, and allows this, and then this, and it's over. Queen g3 just doesn't even take the queen. Just mating him. Here, check. Then knight g5, double check here, and then mate. And at the end of the day, like, Marois' average center pawn loss was 24. And he had just 2 inaccuracies for the whole game. It was just like an insane... just an insanely accurate game by a player, who's like 2092. Very, very fine play overall. Okay, I mean, good job. Really good job there, Marois. You took him out, and I managed to edge you guys out in the tournament by a thread, but barely. In blitz, no less. 5+2 blitz. 24 center pawn lost with 2 inaccuracies. White was playing fast, but he makes lots of mistakes. He couldn't save it. Against me, he defended really, really well. But he couldn't do it against Marois. Was too precise in this game. Okay, guys, not last game, but second to last game, I guess. So I've got time for two more. Last 30 minutes. Yeah. This is, let's see the tournament, by the way, just so you guys could see. The end was those three players. It was me first, Morwa finished second, and Mysterious Expert was third. So that game obviously made a critical difference between Morwa finishing like second and third. And they almost took me out. So that's an awesome game. I mean, Rookie 6 was an insane move to find in Blitz. You know, that's the best move he played, probably. Okay, so by the way, guys, tomorrow is Friday. It'll be my last stream before I move back to Budapest, just to let you know. We will be streaming at 10 a.m. tomorrow in the a.m. A.m. is a.m. So just first come, first served Blitz against everybody who has 100 games or more. No favoritism toward you subscribers. Just so you know, that'll be our last stream. No simul this week. I'm going to be streaming Friday and then Friday. So I'm going to be traveling Monday, Tuesday, arriving on Wednesday, getting set up, and we'll probably do the first stream on Friday from Budapest, and I'll be there. So same thing, Friday morning Budapest time rather than Friday morning USA time. Soltigo, keep posted. All right, we had Mule Skinner. I put him on hold to let Terry, go to bed. Mule Skinner, I hope he's still here. If not, he can watch the video. He's been very supportive of the stream. I'd like to thank him for that. I do say that I think Mule Skinner has improved, and I don't want to take credit for it, but I might take a little bit of credit because we played a lot of games with him. I mean, he's done a lot of work here, really tuning into the stream, and I think that I felt his game getting stronger lately, though he hasn't been able to play so much because of the time, because he's in Europe. So we've got here Mule Skinner playing black in a 10-0 game against a guy who's rated 2292. I'm in the messages too. You're in the messages too? Oh, your game is in the messages too. Why didn't I put you down? I did put you down. Okay, you're next. We'll do your game before poor Soltigo has to wait till last. Thanks for reminding me, S4. So, alright. Mule Skinner, then S4. And then if we can get to Soltigo. So, French defense, Mule Skinner's favorite. Knight C3, Winnower. I haven't had too much success against him. E5, C5, and then we had some games in this line. I don't know what it's called. What does the computer call it? Called retreat variation. So it's actually playable. I mean, the last time it was really featured on a high level, I don't know. I mean, I can remember in the early 2000s when Halifman got really strong, and he drew Kasparov with it in like Kasparov's last tournament in Linares, if I recall correctly. Maybe like the last big Linares tournament. Was it early 2000s? Halifman versus Kasparov. Exactly. So him successfully using against Kasparov, I mean, that's impressive. So B4, we've had some games. C takes D4. This is main line, but white plays queen G4. I never tried this. I've always played knight B5. And that's the move that I know. But let's see. Maybe this will inspire me to try queen G4. More in the spirit of the winnower for white anyway. So, okay. Looks like Spassky. Something Spassky. Did Spassky and Tal ever have any games in this line? Or Spassky and Korchnoi? No, Korchnoi probably never played this variation. Spassky, white. I guess truthfully, like Tal and Tal and who did I say? Korchnoi never played the Bishop A5 variation. They always played like more mainline stuff. Yasser calls it the Armenian variation. He calls it the Armenian variation when Mamadjarov played this in St. Louis. Yeah, that's awkward. He's calling it that because Laputian played it, right? And Laputian was the big expert. So, Yeah, I don't know about that. That's a weird thing to say. So knight e7, queen takes g7, and surprisingly here, I'm out of book. It looks like the main line is b takes a5. But is Mule Skinner's move even right? You could play king f8. I mean, that move in a sense looks safer. We're not giving up the g7 pawn. I mean, nothing's safe here. But the Stockfish likes it better, and the statistics look reasonable. And Mamedyarov has played 2018 against Fedoseev and lost. I didn't know this. Vaganyan, okay. Yeah, he's another French player. Mamedyarov has a history of playing this. He's got a game against Karyakin, wow, and Fedoseev and Anand. He's got a mixed bag of results there, one of each. So this is actually coming into fashion because of Mamedyarov. So knight e7 though, and this is not what Mamedyarov played. So he plays king f8. At least against Fedoseev. Well, who knows what the other guys did? You know, if they played queen g4. So he just played this in St. Louis. Well, not this game against Fedoseev. Oh, he just played it in the tournament too. All right, so they're zoning in on him. You know. G5. What? G6. Okay, I need glasses. Yeah, G6 is obviously ugly. Knight e7. Okay. So the engine doesn't like this, and the engine doesn't like BA. It likes BA, and the statistics like BA. So it looks like both sides need some work on this line. Little rusty, this variation. Maybe he saw my game. Queen takes here, and apparently this is just not good. It's like just not really good for white. Only catching those who don't know what they're doing. So he has to take on a5. BA. We've got to take on c3. And now queen takes g7. And now rook g8. And now the queen goes somewhere. h6 or h7. h7. And, you know, obviously, there's a lot of similarity between this position and the normal winnower, you know, with the crazy variations. I mean, this pawn comes down, it's game over, you know. But black has a lead in development. So the statistics actually look okay for black if you look across the board. By the way, Mule Skinner, yeah, it's possible that Stockfish is way out of order. It's kind of too deep. Where was I recently looking? ChessBase was saying something about maybe black having a kind of bad score in the winnower, but doing okay in the classical variations. I saw some article about that. They were advertising some software they were selling, but you know, who knows? You can't trust Stockfish here. I mean, the position just the horizon is too far. You really have to just go with the statistics, I would say. So white just made a mistake. He shouldn't have done this. He didn't take on a5. He's supposed to take on a5. And so now you can keep your bishop, but you didn't. You transposed, what is this, like transposing back. So apparently, like, this is like just really good for you, playing bishop c7. I mean, I'm just basing this on what I see here statistically. There's a Ray Robson game from 2012. This is just apparently better. Can you take this pawn on e5? That looks risky, but it's certainly nice to take a central pawn. This is what Robson did against Pavlovich, and he actually won. But the engine says it's horrible for black. Very possible that even Robson is out of book here. I mean, it's kind of obscure variation. Rook h8, though, doesn't look that clear. Queen d3, come back, bishop g7. So he saves his bishop, and now bishop f4. This is a really sharp position, obviously. Wow. So Pavlovich didn't play bishop f4. No. Robson didn't play bishop g7. So he actually played bishop f6, which is, okay, I mean, a reasonable move. Something wrong with this. Bishop f4, even stronger for some reason. You don't have the ability to play f6 after you play bishop f6. If you cannot do today, I can definitely do your game today, s4. Alright, bishop g7 is best. Yeah, the guy played bishop f6. You probably want to play f6 at some point. That's why Robson's move is like slightly less accurate. But anyway, okay. Here we have a position where you let it transpose back into the theory, more or less, without trying to take advantage of his inaccurate move order. Knight c6. Is there any difference between like trying to grab the pawn on a5? Knight c6 feels like a more fundamental move, doesn't it? Developing a piece. And then white played it like, a typical... This is actually... Wow, it's actually Halfman Games, a non-Halfman from 2000. So that's what I was talking... That's the point when I was talking about. The statistics just don't lie. I mean, knight f3 is much more common, and Stockfish kind of agrees. There's also h4. That's a TN. The Ponda highly recommends that. Theoretical novelty Ponda variation of the Halifman line of the Armenian, quote unquote, according to Yasser, Armenian variation. All right, we don't have to favor one country over another. We'll just make it something neutral. The retreat variation, politically correct. Knight on bc6, f4. Yeah, so should he play like knight f3? Is that less weakening somehow? And this is Kopyan, Vaganyan. So you see Yasser's reasoning. Halifman. No, it's not. Just a little joke. A little joke. No. Halifman rhymes with on. f4, bishop d7. Look at the score there. Not pretty. So here maybe Muleskinner really made a mistake. You're supposed to play queen takes a5. And then pawns can't get to a6, said the guy who's using the engine to figure it out. But I just try to just reverse engineer why things are why they are and try to explain it to you guys the best I can. Bishop d7 looks like an exceedingly normal move. But because of this, a6, it may be a problem. This dude might have hit you with like a really strong theoretical novelty. Everyone else played rook b1. I mean, rook b1 clearly allows knight takes a5 at worst case scenario, but let's see. Rook b1, queen c7, or knight takes a5. If you take the pawn now, it can't hurt you later. Actually, queen takes a5. Computer's even looking at knight d4 now. There's a lot of territory here that's probably never been explored. But the guy plays a novelty, a6, which is extremely logical. This is just extremely logical. And no one played it in those 4 or 5 games. So what are you going to do? You played a move I didn't expect, queen b6. Here I'm thinking structurally, so my gut instinct is to play b6. I feel like, oh, I'm safe. Play b6. But, a4, bishop a3, yeah, that does look kind of scary. So I don't know what's going on here. Tn a6. This is like, look, Shirov had a game with white, Bologan, Galkin, and Solskis. 4 grandmasters, nobody played a6. Stockfish says a6, this guy played a6. But we can't accuse him of being a computer. I mean, this is an extremely logical move. a6, queen b6. I didn't expect that, but a creative move. And now takes. Material, who needs material? It's 6 pawns each. It's a very, very imbalanced position. White has the bishop pair, though. Knight f3. And honestly, the one thing about allowing a6 and playing queen b6 and ab, I'm not sure how safe your king is here, with the file being open and stuff. That's why I wanted to play b6. It just doesn't look like the black king is safe with the open b file in the position. I feel like. But who knows? So you play d4. This looks nice and dynamic. White plays queen c4, and that's kind of scary. We're going to get to s4's game. Queen c4, another very strong move. Knight f5. And now queen a2. Now, if the computer plays queen a2, obviously we'll will convict on computer cheating here, because no one in their right mind would play queen a2. You know, a computer might play queen a2. Okay, we would play it, but this is just a crazy looking move, queen a2. He wants to open his bishop suddenly. This is such a strange idea. Okay, he suddenly had this just instinct. I want to play rook b1 really bad. Yeah, queen a2 is strange, but I understand. Yeah, he wants to play rook b1. You know, you didn't find this. Apparently, knight a5 is very strong. I mean, it does look scary, though. I mean, rook b1. Oh, there's a check. The check could hurt. King f2. And the king looks safe enough, you know, momentarily there on f2. It does look safe enough. But apparently it's not. Like, apparently you have very strong threats here. Bishop a6 check, scary, but you got nothing. White's got nothing after king c7. Black's like winning. Oh, that's amazing. So queen a2 really, like, white lost some initiative there. But this move missed the main point. And then rook b1. And again, he overlooked queen e4 check like I did, or he underestimated, the dangers of king f2. And then knight e3, and it's kind of the same thing. A little scarier though, because bishop a6 is a lot scarier actually. Here, check, king c7, and you can check again. And now he has to sack his queen. You're lucky you have that, because if you don't have that, you're in a lot of danger. I was actually thinking you were going to play king c6 here. But apparently that loses to knight d4 check. So you have to sack the queen. Beautiful move. Queen takes b7, queen takes b7, bishop takes b7, rook takes g2 check, king e1, and now I don't know how the time situation is. Seconds left for both sides. Wow. So knight takes c2 check apparently is just winning. So with time pressure you played like rook takes c2. Apparently this is a draw. You're just winning with this boomerang. Like, you're basically winning his queen. Either way he goes, you play knight e3 check, snap his queen next move, and I guess you're up. What, like you're up in exchange or something? Or it has to be even worse than that. Here, well, you have bishop e5 check in some positions. So knight e3 check, bishop takes e3, rook takes a2 with the threat of like bishop e5 check, and also his bishop's hanging. And, what else? I mean, both bishops are hanging. So it's like lost for white. Amazing, but rook takes c2, understandable in time pressure. And then like queen b3, you take this guy for free. He's got king e2. And then the question is, your king safe? Yes. Rook c2 check, king d3, rook b8. It's good enough to win, although it wasn't the best move apparently. He sacks there and he's lost. Now he's a piece down. So interesting game. I mean, but it goes to show how much theory really, kind of remains there. I mean, I think that you're actually probably smart to play bishop a5, because this variation is a lot less well known than the main lines of the winner. Okay, Mule Skinner, keep it up with the bishop a5. I don't think there's any refutation any more than any other variation. What a message here. All right, we got the last game with s4. We'll get to Soltigo next week. All right, s4, where are you? It's not an 80-move game, is it? It's only 50. Let's see. This is... Oh, this is Soltigo against s4, so we can kind of like compromise. If you cannot do it today, we'll do it today. And it's like a bonus for Soltigo, because he gets to see... He was waiting, he gets to see one of his own games, so this is cool. All right, this is 1510 Casual Rapid 3 weeks ago. Soltigo against s4, d4, c5. All Benonis are bad. You heard it here. No, I didn't say that. Someone else said that. Nils said that. e5. And Dvoretsky played that against me in a blitz game. It's like related to the Czech Benoni, but it's not quite the same. Now White played c4, but I think that e4 is the best system, objectively. e4, d6, and then like knight c3, bishop e7, bishop e5 check, king f8 is a known line. Not sure if king f8 is necessary, though. It looks like knight d7 is more correct. Weird stuff. Soltigo won't be here next week. You won't be here next week. I won't be here next week. You won't be here next week. Okay, well, I hope you'll be here the following week. Yeah, horrible score for black. Right. Anyways, so c4, d6. This is actually a check Benoni. e4. And then Soltigo turned it into a foigle system with g6. So it's like a King's Indian check Benoni hybrid. Which I would actually have to argue. I would argue that g6 is probably better than the standard check Benoni. I like g6. Igor, my friend Igor Foigl used to play this pretty routinely. Knight c3, and now a6 though. We don't want to do a6. There's no need to play that so early. You could try something weird too, like bishop h6, trading off the dark squared bishop. Remember I had a game with Vadas Laszlo where he did something like that. I won, but it's playable. So a6 kind of early, a4. I mean, I don't think white has to play a4 here. You know, there's no actual threat to play b5. S4 was a little reactionary. No, S4 is black. I'm crazy. So Soltigo's white. Yeah, Soltigo being kind of reactionary with the a4 there. Actually, you know, you might not want to play a4. Likely Thursday won't be able to make while you in Hungary. Anyway, there won't be any stream on Thursday, Soltigo. Just Friday. So a4, knight f6, bishop e2, bishop e7. You know, this seems weird to me, but it's not totally ridiculous. But weird, you know, to play g6 at all and then not play bishop h6 or you know, it's a little weird. So bishop g7 is more normal. I'm not sure what we're doing after bishop e7. We don't have knight h5. We don't have a clear plan. But we might be able to make it work somehow. f4, yes. Something says dubious here. But I'm not so sure. I mean, I don't know. I talk a lot about this in the check Benoni is surrendering the e5 point. You know, that's a very key point. I wouldn't go as far as say it's dubious. Maybe it's not the best though. f4, controversial. It's a matter of style. But I also don't like attacking the head of the pawn chain in most cases. But because black has played this so weirdly with like g6 and bishop e7, and it's kind of slow with the a6, g6, if it's really slow, f4 might be justified. That's the question. So f4, knight bd7, he's guarding the e5 square. Acerbate, take note. Knight f3, and now queen a5, it's a crazy move. The queen is out of play there. It's like he's trying to trick him with b5. Maybe white has rook a3 here. Oh no, there's no time. There's no time. Well, maybe b5 is the pawn sack. White will just have to take it with cb and play it like a banco. But Saul didn't play b5. I was half expecting him to play b5 here. But I guess it's a little bit too much. I don't like his queen on a5. E takes f4. Bishop takes f4. Queen c7. Okay. He heard me. He's like, all right, I'll put it back on c7. You don't know anything about this defense. I played very bad. Okay. But you have some general sense. So knight h5. Bishop h6. Yeah, knight h5 was probably a mistake. You should maybe get out of town while the getting's good. It's still very dangerous for black. Okay. So knight h5, now you're not getting out of town. You know what, though? I mean, bishop f8 might not be a bad move. Maybe we can suck it up and play bishop f8, s4, and Soltigo. This may not be that bad. I mean, it's probably too dangerous to take with the king. Because knight g5, actually, yeah, knight g5 just steps on your face. Or does it? Like, can we come back? This almost holds. Dude, knight e6 check. Ouch. Blaze of Glory just subscribed. Awesome, thank you. Look at that. Soltigo would definitely find this. Pawn takes, piece sacrifice. Long term, no. He's just getting the piece right back. Man, this is ugly, but he's... Ooh, and knight d5. That's a Saruman move. That's a total Saruman move. Man, that's brutal. Knight d5. Oh no. Yeah. So it could go really badly after bishop f8. Saul didn't do that. He did bishop f6, controlling the e5 square. But it looks really precarious. g4 at any moment could happen. So what was the best move here? I mean, there is this knight g3, so he was concerned about that. Apparently e5. That's a tough move to find. It's a really tough move to find. Just sacking a pawn temporarily. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5, bishop takes e5. But you're wrecking black's position with bishop takes h5. So apparently, man, this is like fatal. Wow. G takes h5. Just fatal. Queen takes h5. And we can't develop. Black is just splattered. So that would have been over. King me. Nice. Queen e1, natural move, not quite the best here. Bishop back to e3. Now, black got away with something. He got away. The one that got away. He castled. Oh, man. It's looking like almost a normal Benoni now. And Soltigo goes on this kind of tangent with knight g5. I mean, g4 makes some sense. It's probably what you should play. Even though it weakens your king side, you have to do that sometimes. But now black consolidates his control of e5. I mean, that's what I'm really concerned about. Just e5, and white's just worse. Bishop f4, h6. Yeah, h6 weakens the king side a bit, but you got to do something, so you can't blame him. Here, here. This is what Nils said. He said the d6 pawn is weak in the Benoni. It's bad. There's some truth in it. But proving it in practice is a really tough thing, you know. Rook e8, bishop d3, and now a really ugly move, which I don't think I could bring myself to play, g5. Yeah. Knight h7, I don't know what to do. I probably would play something like this, but this looks horrible, right? It's getting really bad. You got to do this. And then the classic knight takes de with the monster protected passer on d5. Plus 2.3 based on positional factors. No tactics, just positional factors. So Acerbate, think about that. Good lesson, actually. So in the game, he played g5. More violent. But very risky, weakening the black king side. And it's the lion's jaw. Is that the only move? No, you could have played knight h5, knight f4 maybe. Alternative. But this is reasonable. I'm concerned about e5 coming in. I guess it's just too dangerous for white to execute that with the queen on the line with the rook. He tried it anyway. Soltigo trying to do the impossible. Knight h7. Sorry, h5. ed6. And this is interesting, okay? Rook takes, d takes c7, rook takes, knight takes g3, and now rook e1. And it looks like, okay, white's just down a piece, right? But actually this pawn on c7 is very dangerous, so it's not so simple. We'll see you later, JCS. We're going to finish up the stream with this game, but now white has these two connected passed pawns. He's actually winning, according to the engine. I mean, I wouldn't have known that for sure. But 2 pawns advantage is like enough to be winning. According to 1.9 here. Not easy, though, in practical game. Saul just going to try to set up a blockade. Knight d5, bishop takes d5, and man, The dreaded automatic recapture was played. Should bishop takes d5 get a question mark? I mean, apparently that's the best move. Wow. So, bishop takes d5, d7, knight takes d7, c takes d5, with the idea of bishop takes a6. Okay, I really don't think that most people are going to find this. That's insane. Yeah, that's impossible to find. That's a total computer move. Bishop takes d5, c takes d5, and then c4. Bishop takes c4. And there's this just huge threat of bishop takes pawn. Knight f5. Bishop takes pawn. And this is a blunder. You had d7 again, another computer move. So at the end of the day, the knight is hanging on d7 or something like that. Bishop takes a6. This is just computer analysis. So knight d6, c8 queen, knight takes c8, and then rook e8 check. I missed that. Rook e8 check would actually leave white with the advantage. Pretty big advantage. So he played bishop takes a6, which is just like a normal move, but he's now officially down a piece. Knight takes d6. You know, I was thinking maybe rook c1, but doesn't do anything. Rook c1, rook takes a6, rook c6, knight c8, d6. Okay, we can blockade. So it's like he's lost now. This is just like desperation. Knight e5, rook takes, rook c1, blockade. Now it's over. Really nice, crazy game. Typical of these two players. White went on to lose, so now it's just down a rook or something like that. A rook worth of material. I'm going backwards here. Okay, rook takes a6, rook c1. Yeah, there was another move like distracting, you know, trying to distract the knight. I mean, that's the only try. Here he actually has to be insanely careful. If you got to try this. I mean, Saul probably would have found it, but he has to play rook a7 or something. And white's down a piece at the end of the day. So the game wraps up with rook c1 here. And our stream is going to wrap up with knight c8. This is a double question mark. But I mean, it doesn't even matter. I mean, isn't black just winning anyway? You know, I don't think it even matters. Knight c6, bishop takes b2, rook e1, or this move here. And now I'm getting a 0 evaluation. So bishop g7 is a massive blunder. You should just blockade. Probably time came into play here. But just blockade. It's easy to take this for granted now. I mean, black's 2 pieces up, so he figures, oh, anything wins. a5. So check this out. Very interesting position. Black is 2 pieces up, but according to the engine, after rook e2, it's not so clear. That's insane. I mean, 1 piece up, sure. You've got 2 pawns, like on d5 and c7. Of course you have compensation. But 2 pieces up, and white is not losing. I mean, that's really insane, because his knight is so strong, and these pawns are so strong, that actually 2 pieces up, and Soltiga could have saved the game here with rook e2, threatening the terrifying, like, rook e8. I mean, so what's the point here on knight d6? I mean, that's what you would miss, right? This is what you would miss. I mean, you think, okay, knight, big deal. Rook e8. The problem is there's actually a threat of rook d8, I guess. We don't just want to win, you know, a piece. We're still down a piece. So check this out. Rook takes a4, rook d8. Now we're threatening to win the game with rook takes d6. So now, black would have had to play insane moves like bishop e5, distracting the knight. And then after knight takes e5, this is like a study. Rook a7. This is how not to lose with black. Like only move, only move, only move, only move. Rook takes d6. And now you can suffer in an endgame like down a pawn or something. Maybe not. Can white win a pawn? Rook takes b6? No. It's not enough. It's a draw. Ponda. h5. So this is what it should have come to. With the insane rook e2. What an amazing position though. We'll just close it down with that. Soltigo, how could you miss rook e2 here? I just don't believe it. So check it out. When these guys do battle with their crazy style, Soltigo with 89 center pawn loss, S4 with 81, 6 inaccuracies, 7 mistakes, 4 blunders, 3 inaccuracies, 5 mistakes, 4 blunders. This is what you get when two players like want to just create utter chaos, you know, and they can't just play normal moves. Really insane complications. So anyway, that's it, guys. We're gonna wrap it up, and I will see you in 1 week after tomorrow. Actually, we have tomorrow's stream. I'm sorry. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll see you guys Friday. I'm trying to skip out on you early, but I'll see you guys 10 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, with Blitz for everybody. 10 a.m. EDT. 10 a.m. EDT tomorrow. Okay, guys. I'll see you then. My head hurts. It was too much watching this last game. All right. So, have a great night, and we'll see you. Last stream from the USA. Then we're off to Hungary tomorrow, 10 a.m. Friday, EDT. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.